Yeah, your computer, I see what they call it.
You put that on.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you're prepared with the recordings.
Okay, no. Yeah, and Kelly's not here yet, so. Well, to see what that means for some of these, if we have to vote, but we'll get there. All right, Marcus, you wanna let the others in and
Just. Sorry.
holding that?
All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning. I would like to call the meeting of the Indiana Recycling Market Development Board to order, October 26, 2023. First and foremost, I would like to welcome Senator Niemeyer for joining us today. We appreciate your attendance and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
And Representative Harrington.
And then, good morning, Representative Harrington. Thank you for joining. I believe you were on Zoom last meeting.
I was.
Well, it's great to see you. Thanks to all the board members and thank you to everyone in attendance. We squeezed in, we have a nice tight group this morning, so hopefully we'll get through this. We have a very busy agenda today. I will warn everyone that we have limited time and multiple topics to cover. So we will do our best to do the process justice. Deanna, do you want to go through the Zoom
I
introduction?
do. And I did wanna, she is having trouble joining, but I did want to mention that Representative Lori Goss Reeves is another new board member that will be joining us as soon as I can hopefully give her the right link. So, just a moment for that. I apologize. All right, so first I have to do our Zoom housekeeping, so thank you for joining us today. I am Deanna Garner, Recycling Market Development Program Manager for Items Office of Program Support. All microphones are currently muted. For attendance tracking, please take a moment to write your name and affiliation in the chat box. We will be taking questions and comments from participants at today's meeting. All participants will be able to unmute themselves and ask questions or make comments at the end of the meeting or at appropriate times when called on. If you have a question or technical issue during the presentation, please use the raise hand or chat feature. To access the raise hand and chat features, at the bottom or top of your screen, depending on your device, you'll see a menu bar. You may have to move your mouse or touch your screen for the menu bar to pop up. In the middle of that menu, there is a chat icon, which you can click on to show the chat dialog. You should also see the raise hand option. Please utilize the raise hand or chat features if you have any questions or comments, and you'll be called upon at the appropriate time. For those on the phone, if you have a question or comment, you can raise your hand by pressing *9, and we will call on you at the appropriate time. When called upon, you'll need to unmute your phone by pressing *6. If any members of the media have joined us, please utilize the chat feature or email media@idem.in.gov if you have any questions or would like to schedule an interview. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on IDEM's website, recycle.in.gov. And with that, I'll be turning the meeting back over to Bruce Burrow.
Thank you, Deanna. The first order of business is a consideration and approval of the July 27th, 2023 RMDB meeting summary. Do we have any questions or comments or edits that we want to make to those, that transcript? Here,
Move to.
we have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I have a second.
Second by Mr. Lutz. I believe, well, we can just do a quick roll call vote. Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Ms. Hackman,
Yes.
Mr. Gratz,
Yes.
Mr. Lutz.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Whitehead,
Yes.
Ms. Uyghur, if online,
She is not.
and Terry Wessler, Tara Wessler is not available as well.
Correct.
I vote yes, the motion carries. Thank you very much. The next order of business is an IDEM update by Carl Woodrich, Deputy Assistant Commissioner, Office of Program Support. Good morning, Carl.
Good morning. Thank you, Bruce. I'm gonna keep it short because I know you guys have a long meeting agenda, so.
Thank you.
Just wanted to highlight two things that are going on right now. We, IDEM received a climate pollution reduction grant that I'm sure folks hopefully have heard a little bit about. We are in the midst of some public engagement sessions. Two of them have been conducted already. There are two more opportunities to participate. Our next one is November 2nd at 6:00 p.m. Central Time at the Northwest Indiana Regional Planning Commission's office in the Lake Michigan room, but there is also a Zoom link on our website for those meetings. And if you go to our main IDEM agency page, there is a highlighted billboard on there about the grant. If you follow that, it'll give you all this information on the grant, and a link to the Zoom meeting invitation is there as well. The other opportunity is November 8th at 6:00 in the Ferdinand Branch Public Library. That is Eastern Time in Ferdinand, Indiana. So essentially, we have a $3 million planning grant to put together a statewide plan for climate pollution reduction. And by doing so, it will allow the opportunity for Indiana to take advantage of the implementation grant funding that would be forthcoming after folks do the planning part. So the other item that I wanted to let you all know about is we have kind of retooled and we're getting ready to relaunch our Clean Community Program. It was formerly known as the Clean Community Challenge. It was pretty report heavy on an annual report basis for communities, and we didn't get a lot of participation. Some of the larger communities participated, but we did not have smaller municipalities in that program. So we have made that program a little bit simpler, and it's actually tiered based on the size of your community. Communities can select 4 to 8 projects for each tier. There's a bronze, a silver, and a gold level. So that annual meeting is coming up November 28th, which is also the relaunch of the program. So that is going to be a virtual meeting. We have information on our website about that. So if you're talking to your communities that you work within, and they're not aware of that, they might want to participate and sit in on that meeting and learn a bit more about kind of what that new meeting or what that new Clean Community Program is all about. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from board members for Mr. Woodrich? Thank you very much, Carl. Appreciate it. The next item on the agenda is the status updates of existing grants. Ms. Deanna Garner, RMDP Manager.
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm already into the afternoon. Good morning. That tells you how long this morning has felt. Fiscal year 20 and 21 grants are now all closed out. Growing Green was our last one that was kind of that hanging in there for a little bit. So I'm excited about that. Fiscal year 22 had a few that had like 1-year amendments to them. And we have 2 of those now being reimbursed, one just needing a site visit, and one unfortunately is a project that's on hold that we may not see come to. That's Revolution JAGCorp with their process. Costs and management just decided they're wanting to go in a different direction right now. So with fiscal year 23, we actually have 2 closed out, except for our final reports from Rumpke and Muncie. And then we have 3 in the reimbursement stages, almost ready to close out, and 2 more that are still ongoing in tech and recycle course, all on par to be finished within their grant timeframes. Then the last update I have is actually going to be a presentation as well. Plus 5 Revive, Plus 5 was a grantee in fiscal year 22 as well. And they have changed their name to Revive. But Paul Andretti is here to talk to you. They had a 1-year extension and he's asking for another extension. And he probably has the best explanation of why and what work they are doing. So I'll ask you to come up. I'll just fill the board in that their 1-year extension expires January 17th of 24. They received a $400,000 grant towards purchase of their materials conversion system for pyrolysis batch processing to convert scrap tires to carbon and petroleum-based liquid products. Did I say that well enough?
And one additional product, which is part of the reason for our delay. We have done a project where we're co-locating with a company called Hello Nature, which is combined with MPS egg farms up in North Manchester. And they're doing a development that's 40 acres, almost 500,000 square feet. Our building is a part of that development. And the reason why that's important is because one of the offtake products that we produce is a gas product or natural gas type replacement. And they are using, and we generate that from our recycling process. Hello Nature is going to use that gas in their recycling process to dry the chicken manure that's coming from MPS egg farms to create a high grade fertilizer. Right about the time in which we were awarded the grant, we collectively had moved our site interest from Montpelier to Wabash. And because of that, we ended up starting over with the site. We're a follower in this case because we're a 43,000 square foot compared to 400+ square foot of their development. And they are paying for and setting up our building. So they've eliminated a large capital requirement on our part, and we're just going to be leasing back. Consequently, because of that change in site, we had a start over and a delay there. Then once we got everything designed through Kinder Construction in Fort Wayne, we ended up having a 34-week schedule for obtaining our steel for the construction of our building. So that was an additional delay. So obviously things have just piled up. We're at the situation now where you want to show the next slide?
Yeah.
We have a building is near complete. It is probably due to be done in December of this year, where we can start occupying it in the January timeframe. Our funding to finalize the last of our purchases is in the process of being completed as well. We're due for that at the end of this year. We have switched from doing it locally, funding with a small amount from South Bend investors to we are now working with Hamilton Clark Sustainable Capital, which is a major institutional investor, of which we are seeking $35 million for the full development and paying for everything for our site. We're actually in the process of doing that. Instead of bringing on a small amount of machines and implementing additional growth over 18 months, we pulled that schedule back to now. We're talking about doing everything in 6 to 9 months. So we're going to be speeding up that process as well. So I'm mainly here just asking for the opportunity to extend the grant that we had awarded to us in this meeting 2 years ago. Our equipment that we had included in the application has not changed. Obviously the prices have, but that just means that that much more that we will end up covering. So everything's the same, except the date has changed. And so I'm just here ready to answer any questions if there are any and ask for an extension to finish through, which we would be completing this year. Yes.
Question regarding your gas production and utilization. Who is managing that process for you? What system are you using? How intricate is it?
Well, it's everything is being done through can't remember the name of the contractor associated with Kinder. I don't think it's Votel, because Votel's electric. But they are handling the connection. What we're doing is we're providing a pipeline. Hello Nature is gonna take that gas and set up their systems to be able to store whatever amount that they want, as well as the design of their furnace burners and everything are going to be associated to be able to accommodate the gas. Now, we're also using the 25% of the gas that we produce for our own system. So we're using that. We've got an excess of about 15 million BTUs per hour. So that is the attraction for Hello Nature, because they need a very large amount, in fact, even more than that.
And you don't have to drop the condensate out of the gas before you utilize it.
No, we do not.
Thank you.
Yes,
You said you were going after, was it $35 million?
yes.
What happens if you don't get that? What impact is that gonna have on?
Well, what we do is we go back to the schedule that we had when I first came in here and presented, in that we only implement a couple machines and then increase as we go over time. So essentially what we've done is we've moved the schedule up because the investor interest is to obtain a higher operational throughput stage quicker. So we're answering that by pushing that schedule up, which increases the amount of money that we need, because we're going for one source to get all of it done instead of piecemealing it by going in with one or two machines. Then we got to go raise some more money to bring in some additional machines, more money to bring in the final machines, and so forth. So essentially, we're just getting all the equity and debt instruments taken care of upfront instead of piecemealing it over time.
So the bottom line is, if you don't get $35 million, it's not going to negatively impact the project.
No, it just slows it down. Any other questions?
Does this require a vote, Deanna?
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to offer, sir?
I think that's it. Keep it short. That's everything.
Thank you very much.
So just to confirm, what's the completion date
It's the fourth quarter of this year.
of this year?
The completion date on the building is the end of, it's the end of this year for the building. Our project would be operational in fourth quarter next year.
Okay. So we're looking for a year.
Yes, yeah. Just figured just to the
Right.
January
Yeah.
2024 date. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant the request for 1-year extension.
Second.
We have a motion to grant an extension until January of 2020, January 1st, 2025,
27.
27.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. How time moves by quickly. Do we have a second? We have a second by Ms. Ackman. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Ms. Ackman,
Yes.
Mr. Gratz,
Yes.
Mr. Lutz, Ms. Whitehead,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to finishing this off once and
Thank you
for
very
all.
much. We look forward to it as well.
Yeah.
All right, Deanna, do we have?
Yeah.
Oh, you want? You had one more?
No.
Oh.
Continuing on, Deanna, do you want to talk about item number 5 on our agenda?
The Central Indiana Waste Diversion Pilot Project, I wanted to provide some updates at our last board meeting. We had drafted a letter to the bill authors of that's House Enrolled Act 1512. Just to ask about some language in it that was a little bit confusing and contradictory to each other. So our legislative liaison for IDEM, Drake Abramson, was able to coordinate a meeting with Bruce and I and Representative Speedy and Representative Hamilton to discuss those changes. And regarding the first one, the whether or not the board, so it said no more than 2 million, but then it also said in a spot where we could roll over funds left over from the first round. They agree that the intention was 2 million plus the funds left over from the first round. And then the other question we had was the timeframe. And they agreed that it would make sense to do the 1 year from when we awarded them, but to keep the timeframe they have in there, that is July 2024 is when we start accepting, close October. Item reviews them and submits recommendations to the board in December of 2024, and then you guys would award them the following board meeting, which would be that January, February of 2025. So with agreement on those changes, they did in consultation with our legislative liaison, thought that it would require a change to the bill or to the language in legislature next spring. So during the short session, we hope to see that amendment being made so that those two things are clarified and done that way.
I would like to add that in speaking with Representatives Speedy and Hamilton, there was absolutely no objection to our request. It was simply a clarification and an understanding that it would be changed to the best of their ability in next legislative session. So thank you, Deanna, for setting up that meeting.
Of course. A real quick update as well on the two recipients of the first round of the Central Indiana Waste Diversion Pilot Project. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway has asked for their first drawdown, has started purchasing some of the equipment and installing it. And we have no updates yet on Republic's progress, but if you keep in mind, they still needed to buy land and put a building in place before the equipment, of course, gets purchased and installed. And they have that 3-year time frame for these grants. And then if you recall, we did award 3 and the third one pulled out of the project. So that funding also will revert back and hopefully we'll use that in the second round. So, any additional questions?
No, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is a report on the Indiana Office of Energy Development. Julie Kemp, Jessica Parker.
And real quick, and I think Julie said she kind of introduced the reason they're here as well, but little history lesson, the Recycling Market Development Board also used to be part of the Department of Energy Development. And there's still some language in our statute that asks that the Department of Energy consult with us occasionally. So I'll let Julie, you can take it from there. That's a very brief explanation.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us here today. Like Deanna said, we're here to give an update on the Energy Efficiency Revolving Loan Fund program that we are establishing. And Jessica will do the primary part of the presentation. I'm Julie Kemp, Policy Director for the Indiana Office of Energy Development. If you don't know a little bit about the office, we are a small office. We do policy, education, and grants. And so this kind of falls underneath our grant component of our office. So we're here, like Deanna said, we're here to inform and answer any questions that you might have about the program. Take it away.
Thank you, Julie. So as you said, my name is Jessica Parker. I am the revolving loan fund manager. So our objective today is just to share an overview of what our program is. This is the Indiana Energy Efficiency Fund. So next slide, please. So just some background, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act of 2021 allotted $250 million to be given out in grants to states to establish revolving loan funds to support energy efficiency projects within their states. So Indiana is one of 23 states that have received enhanced funding. And our goal is to give out loans and grants utilized by commercial and residential entities to lower their energy consumption and save on overall energy costs. So next slide, thank you. We hope to deliver a multitude of benefits through this program, such as cost savings and overall quality of life improvements for our consumers or borrowers. And you can see the full list within your packets as well. So just a breakdown of our funding, the total, so we are getting about rounding up to $10 million. 10% of that will be for administrative funding covering marketing, staffing, and compliance. 25% will be utilized for grants, which will be completely OED owned program. So if we receive a really strong application for a loan, but they're unfit for to receive that loan, they're going to be considered for a grant instead. And then that final portion is that 65% or 6.5 million, which will be used for those revolving loan funds. So for to be an eligible recipient, as I stated, we're kind of targeting those commercial, residential, and public infrastructures. So to be a commercial eligible recipient, you need to own the building that you do your business in, and you need to do a primary amount of your business within the state of Indiana. To be a residential eligible recipient, you need to own your home and you need to live within Indiana. And then for the grant side of things, so like I said, we anticipate to use these grants for upgrades, especially for low income and small businesses. And because we don't want to add more debt to those that are debt burdened, like I said, if someone puts in an application, but background credit checks, they're kind of unfit for that loan, they're going to be considered for a grant instead. So in preparing to apply for this program, we kind of asked, why should Indiana apply for this funding? And we believe that our program can fit within the context of already pre-existing energy efficiency programs, and we can leverage already built assets to support our program while also increasing usage and awareness of their programs. And then 3 policy objectives are reducing energy consumption, enhance customer savings, and supporting disadvantaged communities. And then listed here are some financial objectives that if we can achieve these, it'll feed into the overall success of our program. And then just some loan framework. So on the next slide, this is a graphic of our program structure, which is a co-lending approach where OED will provide a agreed buyback portion written within a note purchase agreement. So this is going to take up that majority of that funding, that 65% or around 6.5 million. And our public capital will be serving as the subordinate or the first loss to support risk sharing. And then we'll get into some of the specifics in the following slides. So as mentioned, we will be doing a capital buyback within our co-lending approach. Our loan terms are 36, 60, and 84 months, or 3, 5, and 7 years. Lender and OED will agree on an interest rate within that note purchase agreement. And since these will be unsecured loans, like I said, our public capital will serve as its subordinate or first loss. And then the loan process is broken down into 5 parts: the prerequisite, the application, the coordination, the loan, and then the revolve. And then we're going to break down each of those separately, just really briefly. So over the next 3 slides, I'm going to touch on it briefly. OED requires a prerequisite or an energy audit to be conducted prior to submission of the application, and it needs to be conducted within the last 24 months by a qualified auditor or individual. And there are different types of audits, whether it's a commercial or residential. And on the next 2 slides, I'll kind of get into those differences. So with a commercial audit, someone's going to come in to that business and they're going to target the primary energy of consumption during those peak times and try to pinpoint a solution. Whereas on the residential side, we require just a more specific evaluation criteria for our applicants, and that it is compliant with the home performance assessment through the Energy Star brand book. And then the application process, OED is going to coordinate with the partner financial institution to develop a application process to ensure all objectives mentioned within the note purchase agreement are met. The lending process is broken down into 4 parts: the origination, disbursement, repayment, and collections, and these will all be handled by the lender or the financial institution. And then that coordination process, so loans are going to be considered and distributed first come, first served. And recurring meetings are going to be held within, between the lender and IOED. The frequency is just going to be determined upon the volume of the applications in which we receive. And then just to get into some grant framework. So this is at 25% of the allotted money for those that are financially ineligible for a loan. This will be fully IOED owned, so the lender will have no involvement. And then just over the last few slides, we'll kind of get onto some key operational areas. We really thought about this program through multiple different angles and met with various stakeholders to develop a robust plan for the overall success. So you're going to see the co-lendership, partnership importance, the marketing and outreach strategies, the maximize energy savings, and the workforce partnerships, which we can go into details if you guys have any questions. But that wraps up our presentation, and I want to thank you guys for your time. And if you have any questions at this time, myself or Julie would be more than happy to answer those for you. Yes.
What kinds of issues in a residence are you trying to resolve?
Within a residential entity, it would primarily be HVAC system upgrades.
With the primary benefit of achieving cost savings to the consumers.
Community action agencies have, most of them I'm aware of, have weatherization programs. Is there any effort by your department to coordinate with other entities out there in the state? I'm sure there are others other than community action agencies, but do you communicate with entities like that so that there's no duplication of effort?
Absolutely. We are meeting with IHCDA once a month to talk through all the programs that we have a lot of overlaps and similarities and kind of how we can leverage the partnerships.
Have you reached out specifically to community action?
Yes,
agencies?
we've worked with them too.
Good, thank you.
I'm going to ask this specifically to Jessica. And thank you both ladies for presenting today. You knew your information like the back of your hand. And in doing so, some of us weren't able to keep up. So I was wondering, would you be willing to share your presentation through Deanna to the board members? So we can have, basically, digest it a bit more and possibly have some future questions.
Yeah, it's already been added to your guys' packet.
Oh, well, very good. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. And feel free to reach out with additional questions after the meeting too.
Well, thank you very much, ladies. Any other board member questions? Seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda are the recycling program reports. Mr. Lees? Mr. Lees is the RMDB environmental engineer.
Well, thank you. Glad to be able to give this update about our 2022 recycling index report. This is where we track the numbers as we look at our infrastructure in the state. And so we just kind of, moving on to the next slide, we look at solid waste metrics as a whole. So the total tons that get reported are 9.23 million tons of material. And so it's what you see here is the big picture. This is a recycling rate measurement and also a per capita generation. And on a 5-year average, we're at near normal levels for our recycling rate and waste generation in the state. So we do have data collected for 9.3 million tons in the state. So that's reliable information that we're getting as what you see. Yeah. And excuse me. And the next slide would show you the destination of where that material goes. Most of it goes to the landfill. what we generate of municipal solid waste, most 75% would go to a landfill. And recycling and composting has been steady at in the 20% range and some waste to energy. And that makeup includes households, includes what comes from industrial, commercial, institutional sectors of municipal solid waste. So those tons do get tracked in our system. And so the next slide kind of gives you a, I'll look back, maybe go back one.
Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead.
And then this will get more about individual tonnages and those categories. Yeah, generation, MSW generation is the sum of tonnage amounts for disposal, recycling, and composting from Indiana origins. So we track specifically from Indiana origins. There is waste that gets imported to the state for disposal in our MSW landfills, but that's not included with these numbers. The recycling component includes commodity recyclables, glass, metal, paper, plastics. You know, that's the core recyclables that most people would think about when you bring the word up recycling, glass, metal, paper, and plastics. But for our recycling rate measurement, it also includes wood waste and organics, what would go to compost, mulch, and animal bedding. And so the wood category is a big tonnage of that amount. And so the next slide, it shows you again a different picture of the generation, but the biggest thing is what goes to landfills and what gets reported as MSW going to MSW landfills, because they also collect coal ash, foundry sand, flue gas desulfurization, and other, and as well as alternate daily coverage. So these other categories are tracked in addition to what is reported as MSW. So the tons going to MSW, you know, that's a big number, 7 million tons in Indiana landfills. It directly affects our recycling rate measurement because that number is so big, and so that is why, you know, 20% recycling rate is it's hard to go up against 7 million tons. But that number could be, it includes a lot of stuff, and so what gets reported as MSW is what gets tracked. And that comes into our system. Next slide, you're going to see a commodity recyclable. This is glass, metal, paper, and plastics specifically. And tonnage wise, fiber and cardboard is what is being collected and shipped to end users. This comes from households, it comes from businesses, industrial, institutional sectors as cardboard, and there's a lot of plastics out there too, and in all these sectors. But what gets collected from mature carbon facilities is shipped to end users is mainly fiber on a tonnage basis. And in the next slide, as you dive down into the details, this becomes, you know, the big picture is the first slide, but here is what you see on single stream recycling, which may apply to households. You know, households collection would be typically single stream collection. And we do have our MRFs in the state that do sort recyclables that way. We've got 7 facilities specifically that we track to come up with this number for single stream recycling. And roughly of our in-state MRFs, 200,000 tons would be shipped from those facilities. And then about 100,000 tons would go to out-of-state MRFs for sorting. And that's pretty reliable information that we're getting. And so when you look at single stream recycling, 300,000 tons as a whole, what we do. And the last slide here is gives you an idea of who our respondents are. And as we would look at, you know, types of companies that would be submitting reports at, which could be MRFs, transfer stations, recycling hubs, solid waste management districts. All the solid waste management districts do submit reports, and they're going to generate in 100,000 tons of material that goes into the system on an annual basis. But we track that information, so it's reliable. That kind of wraps this up for this session, and Jacob's coming up next to talk about e-waste.
I have a question for you, Tom. With all our efforts, do you see the generation rate per household declining over the last 10 years? Or staying steady or increasing? For MSW?
Yeah, when I look at household generation rates, and the Recycling Partnership has really studied this over a time period. And they would estimate that each household would generate about 800 pounds per year of recyclables. And, I mean, these are studies outside of this, that how much a household will generate as recyclables. That could be captured. Yeah, that number is pretty steady.
Okay,
And what gets generated and what gets captured are two different stories.
all right, thank you.
Why is the single stream mass decreasing on?
Yes, that is a trending downward. So yeah, those less materials are being collected. And so normally, single stream, in that 300,000 ton per year range, but it's kind of trending downward this last couple of years.
Why is it, you know?
It's collection, a collection that goes into a MRF and what gets reported, so less material being collected.
And I'm sure Mr. Lutz can probably expand upon that.
I could, it's a lot of different things. You see that the spike that jumped up from 20 to 21, I think that could have to do with a lot of stay-at-home COVID kids. Middle school, elementary were at home and a lot of work. And then I think as schools went back into session, we even saw it on MSW, the collection at the curb has kind of settled back down from jumping up to 40, 45 pounds, on a daily basis or weekly basis. And that's kind of settled back down. So I think that's a little bit of a trend and an interesting trend. I think you see that a lot of things happened when the markets were high. You had the China National Sword and, the cost of those programs and the cost to run those plants. I was just curious, and I'll just kind of lead back into it, Tom. The 20%, 21%, 19%, how do we balance out to the rest of this 50 states? Have you ever kind of measured that? I mean, I guess, you got California as an outlier and things like that, Portland and Seattle, but comparatively, the 20% for recycling and compost, we top 10, top 15?
Yeah, for the Midwest, and we're right in the average. Michigan would be right at where we're at.
Michigan.
Yeah, Ohio, probably Minnesota's a little bit higher. It's been a near normal for a long time, and so unless something really drastically changes, I would expect those numbers probably not going to change a whole lot. We really need more capacity and investments. You got to add more material recovery facilities, more collection to move those tons from disposal into the MRFs and into the circular economy.
Yeah, and then the other tough thing is it's I always challenges the analysis of a ton. If you take a volume type situation, a ton of MSW or a volume, a cart, so to speak, a cart of MSW is going to weigh quite a bit more, almost 3 to 4 times, 3.5 times more than a same volume of recyclables, lightweighting and all that. So it's you're kind of behind the curve to start with. So, but yeah.
Yeah. So what goes to the landfill? The tonnage is a big metric, and that's what gets reported from MRF. That's gets reported going to landfill, and there's other metrics that may not be a weight based that we could draw conclusions from. And these numbers are what is shipped from a MRF and not what is received.
Mm-hmm. And then you also can balance on the thing of, we've always said this is, when you look at construction sites and straight scrap metal that has a lot of weight that doesn't get reported. So
I think that's part of the big miss that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Jen, the one thing I will say is that material recovery facilities are advancing with, obviously new technology. AI is possibly a big advantage, as we implement that into our MRFs as well. So it helps in the sorting process,
Oh, yeah.
quite a lot.
And so, you know, looking forward to what the MERV capacity would be, I mean, the 100,000 tons of shipments, you know, certainly be looking towards 1 million tons. And being able to get that investment and operations to reach that level. I mean, those are probably near-term goals, and really being able to do that.
Any other question, Mr.
One quick one. That 20%, my memory is correct. When we first started doing that, wasn't it about 16% thereabouts?
It was down there. You know, I think some of that came to better reporting, and we're getting a little better at those numbers being on up.
Is it better reporting or are we actually doing?
Yeah,
recycling?
it's more recycling. It is going up. There's more work and more tons being shipped, no doubt. And we're seeing that. And we know there's individual activity going on that is boosting those numbers.
Thanks.
So those 7 facilities that we're doing tracking right now, I mean, those are pretty consistent. And if more facilities come online, we'd like to include them in that number.
Where are those facilities? What cities?
Yeah, the 7 facilities that we got, Recycling Works in Elkhart. There's Serval and Fort Wayne. The Republic also has a facility here in Indianapolis. We got WM's got a facility here in Indianapolis. East Central, Muncie's got a facility. Tri-State Resource Recovery in the Elderville area. And then Warwick County, of course, they also are in this mix of tons. Single stream sorting. This is specifically for single stream sorting.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? Thank you, Tom.
Sure.
Appreciate it as always. Next we have Jacob Schmicker, E-Waste Program Manager. He's going to give us a e-waste recycling report.
Yeah, so my name is Jake Smicker. For those of you that don't know me, and I manage the Indiana E-Cycle program. And today I just kind of want to give a little background on the program itself, talk about some of the stakeholders that are involved in the program, and then talk about some of the data associated with those stakeholders, and then kind of give a little information on some outreach efforts that we do here at the state, and then also talk about a pilot program that we kind of took on. So if I could get to the next slide here. So just a little background on the program itself. The Indiana E-Cycle program was established back in 2009. It's an extended producer responsibility program that has a lot of focuses, but a few focuses are to keep electronics out of landfills. It's also strives to make sure that electronic devices are handled in a proper manner when they are being recycled. And then also it really promotes the recovery of valuable materials found in electronics. So like precious metals and so forth. The E-Cycle program is made up of 3 main stakeholder groups. The first one being manufacturers. So when I'm talking in the next couple of slides about manufacturers, I'm talking about like the Dells, the Sonys, the Apples of the world. And then it's also made up of collectors, simply put, collectors that are just facilities that are actually collecting electronics. So that could be like a solid waste management district, or even like a Goodwill or Best Buy operates as a collector within the program. And then, of course, we have the recyclers, and those are just facilities that are actually recycling the e-waste material. And here I just have a map really quick that showcases the state of Indiana. Kind of in that maroon color is all the counties in Indiana that actually has a e-waste collection site. So we can see that 87 out of the 92 counties actually has e-waste collection sites. That's pretty good. So if I can go to the next slide, and before I dive into the upcoming slides that talk about some of the data, I just wanted to highlight that the program really focuses on specific electronic items known as covered electronic devices. So when I'm talking about what was collected and what was recycled, This is the list of items that I'm kind of talking about. If I could go to the next slide. This next slide is gonna focus on manufacturers, results for 2022. So for this past year, we had 63 manufacturers register with the program. Each year, manufacturers have a recycling obligation that they have to fulfill with the state. That's based on their sales to Indiana households. And the way they fulfill that obligation is they work with a registered recycler, and that recycler works with a registered collector. And that's how that obligation is fulfilled. So for this past year, 2022, manufacturers collectively had a 22.3 million pound recycling obligation. And for this upcoming year, their recycling obligation is going to be 21.1 million pounds. And that's typical to see that kind of decrease. And that's just based on simply most of the products are just getting lighter that these manufacturers are selling. And then I just have a kind of a graphic here that kind of just showcases the trend of registered manufacturers, and we're kind of seeing a downward trend. And largely that pertains to just better quality assurance on our part, knowing which manufacturers need to register and which manufacturers do not need to register with the program. So if I could go to the next slide. The next slide is going to focus on collector results for 2022. So for this past year, we had 88 collectors registered with the program. These collectors reported collecting 28.4 million pounds of covered electronic devices. And then of this 28.4 million pounds, 21.3 came from metropolitan areas, and then 7.1 million came from non-metropolitan areas. And metropolitan versus non-metropolitan is just a large county like a Marion, Lake County, or a small county like maybe Pasco, or Orange County. If I could go to the next slide, which is going to highlight the recycler results. We had 21 recyclers register with the program for 2022. They reported recycling just under 31 million pounds of covered electronic devices. And I wanted to mention that since the inception of the program, so since 2009, recyclers have reported recycling over 375 million pounds of covered electronic devices. We like to think that we definitely understand it's not a direct result of the e-cycle program, but we like to think that the e-cycle programs definitely had a helping hand in that. And as we can see, like, and I should have mentioned in the last graphic with the collectors that we're just kind of seeing a downward trend in the number of collectors and recyclers that are actually registering with the program. And again, that's just better quality assurance, just knowing who should be registering and who shouldn't be registering with the program. So if I could pop over to the next slide, just want to touch base on some of the outreach efforts that we do here with the state. So I've been able to visit numerous solid waste management districts and also private collection, e-waste collection sites. And when I visit those folks, I just try to better understand their operations and what they're kind of doing, where they're sending their material and so forth, and just to see if I can make any improvements or any suggestions. I also try to talk up other programs with the state, grant programs like the Recycling Market Development Program, and also the community grant program that we have with the state, and always let them know about our education outreach that we can do as well. I've also had the chance to attend numerous collections events across the state, and actually we were able to host several collection events. We always host a e-waste collection event at the Indiana Government Center. That's always very well received by folks. And then also we hosted an event down in Seymour, Indiana, and also Sullivan County here recently. And I'll get a little bit more into those two events in the upcoming slides. And then I always conduct a lot of outreach to retailers, so like Walmart, Target, Costco, those kind of players, just to educate them on the e-cycle program and to provide them with outreach material for their patrons. And I definitely think that's actually helped out a lot. I get a lot of calls from folks, you know, they just bought a TV from Costco. I was given your number. How do I get rid of this, my old television? So definitely think that's been really helpful. If I could hop to the next slide. So I kind of mentioned earlier, we took on a pilot program, is what we called it, with the e-cycle program. And what we did was we, you know, obviously knew there was a growing amount of e-waste out there. We knew that there's increasing costs, especially when you're looking at like televisions and stuff like that. And we just recognized there was a need to kind of try to do something, try to assist. So we launched this e-cycle collection project, and we had different criteria, just to list a few. We kind of looked at the community's access to e-waste collection opportunities. We also looked at the socioeconomic status of the community itself. And with all that criteria, we, if I could go to the next slide, decided for a first kind of e-waste collection event to take place down in Jackson County. We had various partners down there. We had Technology Recyclers, which is a large collector recycler just right over here on the east side of the city. They were partnered with us and they provided all the staff and all the Gaylord boxes and transportation and all that good stuff for this event. We also partnered with Cummins down there and we actually hosted it at their Cummins engine plant, which is great. They had a really large parking lot and they were great to work with. They had volunteers for us and everything. And then we also partnered with Jackson County Solid Waste Management District and Debbie down there. And she was great to work with, especially from an outreach standpoint to get the word out about this event. And at this event, we actually collected just right under 63,000 pounds of electronics. We saw 380 cars come through and we were able to collect 895 television / monitors. And mind you, this was all just in 3 hours. So again, you know, I mentioned earlier in the last slide, you know, we recognized there was a need, an increasing amount of e-waste out there, and this definitely kind of, you know, proved it. Collecting over 20,000 pounds each hour. But we definitely learned a lot of stuff from that event. You know, we learned about traffic flow management. We learned about having proper amount of staff on hand, and those sort of things. So if I could go to the next slide. So with all that, you know, we wanted to continue to do this. So we chose to do the next event over in Sullivan County, which is a county on the west side of the state, just right below Terre Haute, Indiana. And this time we partnered with ERI, which is located over in Plainfield, Indiana. They're a large collector recycler of electronics, and they were awesome to work with. They provided all the staff and all the Gaylord boxes and all the transportation and all that good stuff. We also partnered with the Sullivan County School Corporation, and they were kind enough to let us host the event at their high school, which was a great location. It was just a huge parking lot, so we were able to have 2 lines coming through at this collection event. And again, we partnered with the Sullivan County Solid Waste District over there, and they were awesome to work with. They did a lot of outreach. They provided all the drinks and beverages, which was great because it was hosted in July. So that was really nice of them. And at this event, we collected 42,000 pounds and we saw 264 cars come through, collected 872 monitors. So again, just a really, really successful event that we put on down there. And we are looking forward to doing more of these events and kind of already started to identify the next event we want to do. But this is kind of our pilot e-waste collection project that we've been working on. And I think that's my last slide, if I'm not mistaken. I should mention too, we've had great support from Carl and my supervisor, Pat, and our commissioner to do this collection project program. So it's been really great and we just kind of look forward to doing it in the future. But this is my contact information. I'll be here all day too, if anybody has any questions, but I'm happy to answer anything right now. Yeah.
Great job. You always do a great job, Jacob. But I noticed on your acceptable item list, you had iPod.
Yeah.
If any of us can remember what one of those are.
Right. You
But-
still-
I still
This-
have mine.
It's a Matchbox. And how do you reach that market share to let them know that that little Matchbox can't go into the trash and should come to you for recycling?
We definitely try to utilize different avenues. Obviously, social media is a big thing we try to do. We try to educate the general public through social media. So we might, even just with collection events, I know our media team is always doing, there's a collection event at the Indianapolis Zoo for electronics. And then we try to always provide information to click on the Indiana eCycle webpage to try to educate the general public. I try to get out as well and just kind of do, outreach efforts, and I know the solid waste districts are a huge help in doing that. Even with our education, we have an education coordinator, and just try to do outreach and try to educate the general public that, that not only an iPod, but, television can be recycled or a laptop. So just really education and outreach, trying to reach folks, through different streams, mechanisms. And in these events too, these collection events that we're doing really is helpful because it's a great opportunity for us to educate the general public about recycling electronics. So that's just some of the
Well, thank you.
avenues we're trying to take advantage of, I guess, and get the word out.
Thank you for the good work you do. Terry?
E-waste used to be not only shipped out of state, but out of country. How many approximately processing facilities do we have in the state of Indiana that can extract all the components from e-waste?
I believe 11. Yeah, I think it's 11, but some of the major players are right here in Indianapolis. And that's one of the great things we have in the state of Indiana is we have large processors of electronics. So like the technology recyclers, they have a huge facility over here. They even have a grinding mechanism and all that sort of stuff. And then ERI, which is in Plainfield, Indiana, another huge player, not only here in Indiana, but in North America in general. Recycle Force is over on the east side of the city as well. So there's 3 of the big players that actually are processing quite a bit of material. So we're pretty fortunate. I like to think like here in Indiana to have that en route for those electronics. But to answer your question, I believe it's 11. But really there's only
Encouraging.
several are kind of huge players. So
Thank you.
Jacob, on your slide, you showed that there looked like a downtrend of the people, the companies that are certified or that are, is there any, do you think it's just a reset of who should have been certified or should have been this slide right here of 20, it looks like
yeah, so all the
71, 66, and then it looks like it dropped.
So basically, this is better quality assurance, to be honest, and that
Got
goes
it.
for manufacturers, recyclers, and collectors. With the recyclers, when we're seeing like 71, there's folks from Florida registering, and that's just because it was on the calendar that just said, hey, register with this program. And they weren't collecting any material from Indiana, and there's just no need for them to register with the program. So really, it was just kind of skewing data, really is all it was doing. So kind of took a fine look at that, and really we just want folks that are actually either collecting or recycling electronics to be registered with the program. And that's when we kind of saw a pretty significant decline. And then also just some facilities are no longer doing electronics. Tough game to get into. And that goes for the recyclers, collectors, and manufacturers. Manufacturers, we've seen a decline not only from just better quality assurance, but we have folks that just aren't selling devices anymore.
So it's a better scrub of that data.
Yeah, more or less.
So what was the cost of those 2 programs that you did and who paid that?
So the Indiana E-Cycle program footed the bill on those 2 collection events. The Jackson County event roughly costed, I think, $20,000. I think it was like $19,600 to be exact. And then the Sullivan County event costed roughly, let's call it $25,000. But that's all funded through the Indiana E-Cycle program.
And I think you've told me this in the past, that those sites were chosen, I think it said it on a slide, through socioeconomic factors.
That was one of the factors. There's a lot of things we looked at. We looked at the social economic status and also looked at, what collection opportunities. With the first one, we kind of wanted to also choose one because it was our first time ever doing it. So where there's a strong solid waste district involvement, that was one of the things we kind of looked at too. And always location is always key too. So we want to make sure that we can have more as like a school's great, for example, to have an event like this because it has a huge parking lot. So want to make sure partnerships are there too that we could take advantage of and so forth. But kind of the 2 main things is the socioeconomic status, and then definitely the what's out there for a collection opportunity for folks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify Jacob's answer on the cost of the program, how it's funded. It said the Indiana E-Waste Fund, but keep in mind, manufacturers are required to pay an annual fee when they register with the program. So all the funding for the E-Waste Fund comes from the manufacturer's fees.
Any other questions?
Any questions, comments? Thank you, Pat, hiding back there. Appreciate your contribution. Jacob, thank you very much.
All right,
Appreciate
thanks.
it. All right, we kind of moved up the discussion with regard to the next scheduled meetings.
I'm sorry, Bruce.
Yes,
I'm gonna interrupt you one more time.
that's fine.
The board, because these reports
Oh, yes.
are required by the board to submit to the legislature.
Oh, we need
We
to have
need
a
you guys
vote.
to approve it.
Hearing that, do I have a motion to approve the report by the e-waste recycling report and recycling activity summary?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Lutz has motion. Do I have a second?
I'll say.
Mr. Gratz, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Ms. Hackman,
Yes.
Mr. Gratz,
Yes.
Mr. Lutz,
Yes.
Ms. Whitehead,
Yes.
anyone online? Don't see. My vote yes.
Can I say yes? I didn't know if I could vote online. Hello? Happy to cast a yes vote if I can.
With that, the motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, now we will discuss the next item on the agenda. Discussion of 2024 proposed meeting schedule. Quarterly, fourth Thursday of the month. The dates are January 25th. And they are all Thursdays, April 25th, July 25th, and October 24th of 2024. So please check your and mark your calendars. Hopefully plan accordingly. And we always appreciate everyone's efforts. We know you do this for an enormous salary and it's justified, but
We seem to have good attendance doing this kind of schedule, but I know that there's sometimes conflicts. So I just wanted to, also bring this up at this time. If the board wants to set a different schedule, it's not like it's set in statute that we have to do it like fourth Thursday of the month. That's just kind of traditionally what it's been. And I also wanted to just discuss if we wanted to keep that first Thursday, January 25th. I know we sometimes move that one a little bit around to see if we can possibly get legislative members in attendance. It's always a challenge due to them being in the legislative session during that time. Sometimes they have meetings come up that day or just the day before, so it becomes very challenging to schedule with you guys, but if there's any discussion we want to have around possibly rescheduling it, I wanted to open that up for the board to discuss. I don't know, I know Fridays better for you guys, I think that's been suggested before as well, but.
The house is in session on Thursday mornings.
Yeah,
That's a problem. You're in the afternoon.
Short session this year, so one meeting's gonna be under the January meeting, the rest is gonna be the April meeting, the rest of it will be out of session at that point. I like the Thursdays with it, just me.
okay.
all right, thank you very much. With that, considering the amount of material we still have on the agenda, we're gonna take a short break of 10 minutes. And please stay within that 10 minutes so that people can have a break. Because once we get into the grant awards, and I do apologize for having to rush, but we truly do have a very packed agenda today with a lot of people here. So we'll break for 10 minutes and then we'll reconvene. Thank you. How are you doing, Deb? Yeah.
Right. We're gonna do that.
The recording is, yeah.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is obviously why we have most people in attendance. It's consideration of the Recycling Market Development Board grant applications. And I will say that I want a great thank you to all of the applicants. It was a stellar year with regard to the number of applications. I think we ended up with 18, is that correct, Deanna?
Yeah.
18 grant applications are qualified. And of which, I'm sorry to say, but I will say it up front. Some of you will go home sad, some of you will go home happy. We only have so much money to award, and we do our best to evaluate each grant and award those based on our scoring matrix, as well as the grant itself, for the best candidate. So it is a competitive grant funding, and please don't hold it against us. We only have so much money to work with. So thank you very much. Dan, do we have any other topics we need to cover before we get into the meat of this?
I don't think so.
The ethics reminder I have, and it's probably easier for me to read the recusals that I've listed. I believe all of us are very familiar with the recusal process, submitting to Mr. French, those we have conflicts of interest with, and what I have on my sheet is that Mr. Lutz will be recused from CW Recycling LLC proposal. Myself, Bruce Burrow will be recused from Floyd County Solid Waste Management District proposal. Ms. Debbie Hackman will be recused from Floyd County Solid Waste Management District. Mr. Guerin will be recused from Indiana Shingle Recycling LLC. I, Bruce Burrow, will be recused from Jackson County Highway Department proposal. Mr. Terry Guerin will be recused from Jackson County Highway Department proposal. Ms. Hackman will be recused from Jackson County Highway Department proposal. Mr. Noonan will be recused from Jackson County Highway Department proposal. Not to fear, we still have enough votes to pass it with the majority. SCR North America, Mr. Guerin will be recused. Strategic Materials, Mr. Guerin and Mr. Lutz will be recused. Vigo County Solid Waste Management District, Debbie Hackman and Mr. Lutz are recused. Warren County Waste and Recycling Center, Solid Waste Management District, Debbie Hackman and Mr. Lutz have recused themselves from voting and discussions on those applications. Have I missed any? Very good. Thank you all for making sure we do things by the book.
Vigo County, is that one, do you need to recuse yourself in that right? Okay, just check this.
Well, no, but
Vigo,
no, I haven't, no,
okay, we had some last minute changes, so.
Okay. Thank you.
So for Vigo County, you will not need to recuse.
If anybody does have any further changes, we can get them after the meeting. Just get with me, recuse yourself before the people come to speak. We have blank screens. We can always make another screening protocol for anybody who needs one.
All right, at this time, I would like to explain to the applicants that we do have a scoring metrics, and your applications are reviewed by staff initially. Staff does a great job in going through all the details, and then each application is reviewed in detail by each board member. Those applications, the scores from those applications are submitted by each board member to a website, then compiled and averaged against the staff as well as each other board member and we come up with an overall average of score for your application. Doesn't say it all, but it gives us a basis to work from. So with that, normally we open it up to the board to ask for applicants to answer questions regarding their application prior to award. And we can start that process now if you'd like. We have an hour and a half left in our meeting. Hopefully we will have enough time to get through the process. But I would open it up to the board members' pleasure on how to proceed.
You want to call individual?
Sure.
Well, and just a quick note for the board, I think that, and traditionally we've gone down kind of by rankings, and when we run out of money, unfortunately, we run out of money. We probably don't. If you have any questions for anybody, feel free to ask them, of course, but we may not want to open it up to have everyone give a little bit of word.
No,
That's what the proposals, were for, and I know everybody did a great job at reviewing those.
I would agree. Normally we have a little more time for speaking. But the biggest question is, Deanna, do you have your mathematic
I do,
calculation
it's ready.
available? Yeah.
So how many, for the interest of the audience, how many requests did we have in dollars? What was the request total?
Sorry, I don't have that one handy. Initially, before the ineligible ones were removed, it was like 5.6. There it is. Some of requested was 5.6 million.
And we have how much to distribute?
2 million.
So they knew.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can let them know that in their invitation here, and it's, we want, as Bruce said, we want to award them all if possible. Everybody's worthy of funding. Unfortunately, we're given the task of only 2 million to be able to distribute, so.
And we have the responsibility of the state of Indiana to do the best with that 2 million that we can. So thank you all. And again, I apologize for those of you who will possibly be saddened. I do recommend that you continue to pursue the grant process. It will be open again next year if you're not awarded this year. So with that said, the top scoring candidate I have on my list is Strategic Materials with an overall average of 74 points. Do we have any representatives from Strategic Materials in the audience?
I'm here, Robert.
Would you step up to the podium, please, sir?
Strategic?
Morning.
Good morning. State your name and if you would, please, for the record.
My name is Robert Christian, Regional Sourcing Manager for Strategic Materials. And based out of Indianapolis, Indiana, my market covers a large of the Midwest.
Thank you. And please tell me what our $103,543 will do for it.
The number is great, actually, by the way. Many of the counties in which we currently service right now for glass recycling has been underserved. Strategic Materials struggles with assisting these counties with glass recycling due to our equipment availability, which mainly are roll-off containers, safe roll-off containers like 20 yards, coffin top containers that we are limited on. So that's what it's being mainly used for. We have a lot of counties out there now which we service, some that we can't service because we do not have the available assets to service them. So this would mainly go into more containers, safe containers, containers that can be utilized in a friendly manner for glass collection.
And primarily container glass, correct?
Yeah, mainly container glass for any of the municipalities.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members? Hearing none. I do have a question. How many containers are we talking about in total?
I believe there's 33,
33. Thank you.
with the exception of some open tops as well. Often in open tops.
Thank you. So with that said, do I have a motion from any of the board members for approval of the grant for Strategic Materials Incorporated?
I'll make a motion for
I have a motion by Mr. Gratz. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Whitehead. Any discussion needed? Hearing none, roll call vote. And do we have any of the board members online at this time?
Yes, we have. Kelly Weger, are you there, able to talk with us? Online.
Well, if we're unable to hear from Ms. Uyghur, we can start with Mr. Guerin.
Staying.
Oh, she tried to speak. Mr. Guerin is recused. Ms. Ackman,
Yes.
Mr. Gratz,
yes.
Mr. Lutz,
I recused.
recused. Ms. Whitehead,
Yes.
Ms. Henry is not available, and I vote yes.
Kelly is, but
Kelly?
I think I'm unmuted now. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Kelly.
Wonderful. I vote yes.
With that, motion carries with a majority vote of 5 yeses. Thank you very much for your time. Good luck with your project.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you.
that's in the wrong box.
Moving on. And I'm just making recommendation to board members. I'm not trying to dictate the flow of this meeting. So if you have preferences, please speak up. But with regard to scoring, the second candidate with the highest score was at a 73 was CW Recycling LLC. With the pleasure of the board to call them up at this time. I believe so. Let's go.
Yeah.
Good morning, gentlemen. Please state your names and give us a bit of an overview on what you're proposing to do.
Sure. My name is Joshua Campbell. I'm the division president for Renasant, which is the parent company of CW Recycling. We were here before the board just a few years ago with a kind of a state-of-the-art C&D recycling facility. CW, hence the CW being construction waste. C&D has always been a big part of our business and a big focus of what we do. We built a new facility, an $8 million facility, an enterprise business park with the help of a previous grant here to really move through recycled materials through that plant. And we recycle about 96,000 tons a year through that plant. This particular project is something that we've been working on in industry, given that we're very connected to the construction industry, is the gypsum recycling. We've been kind of approached by owners, by different folks in the industry to say we don't have a really good option for this. And there's a lot of environmental benefits to that. There's a lot of support from, even from the landfill side of it, of not wanting those materials into the landfill, let alone all of the valuable resources that are there. So we really view this as an initial project to get started with this of recycling, what's referred to as a new or cut material that's not been painted or anything like that yet. To actually get started with plans to do additional R&D to actually start to develop uses for used recycling board. And we're in kind of talks and discussions with university out in Washington and some initiatives that they've been doing, as well as some folks down in Florida as well with that. So we just feel like there's a huge opportunity to really impact material that today is just going straight to the landfill. There's just not a lot of options for it. And we feel like we're kind of in a unique position, given that we're so connected with the construction side of things, that we're in those positions to really be able to capture those materials from the projects. So.
How do you process, please explain how you process your materials to, how shall I say, retain the hydrogen sulfide from bothering your neighbors?
Well, right now, I mean, I'm sorry, somebody was asking a question there. So the material in the process right now will all stay in a dried state. So we're not bringing the material in and adding moisture to it or anything like that, which is what starts to kick off that process. So material is going to be come in dry, retains dry, go through the plant, which basically breaks down the paper off of it down into a clean, usable product, continues to stay dry, and then goes out primarily initially as an agricultural net.
I see, thank you. Mr. Aaron?
Yes.
I was trying to determine whether I had a conflict or not, and I can't, at least in our sphere, can't see that I do. What landfill do you use?
We primarily use WM's landfill, so Twin Bridges landfill, as well as CGS landfill, Morristown landfill, sorry.
Then I'm okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions from board members?
Hi, this is Kelly. Can you hear me?
Yes, Kelly.
I was just curious to hear a little bit more about once the products are processed through recycled, do we know what streams they're going into? What are they actually being turned into?
I'm sorry, there's a bit of background noise. Could you restate your question?
Yes, what do the materials go into once they are recycled?
What do the materials do when they are recycled?
So at this point in time, with the initial clean material, it's anticipated as going back into agriculture. So it gets used out on the fields to help break down the soil, as well as using for increasing the rate of fertilizing and that type of stuff. The future uses of what we're hoping to do as we go through and learn to be able to use some of the, used material and things like that, is to actually go back into building new wallboard. And, kind of with the old power plants, it's funny, the different changes that happen over time. Everybody's aware of a lot of our fossil plants that are kind of going offline. There's a byproduct off of that that's been used and is currently still being used for a synthetic material for creating the gypsum and the wallboards and things like that. As some of those power plants are going offline, there's actually an industry out there that's looking at having to go back and get a lot more virgin material out of the ground, doing a lot more mining and things like that. In other areas and other countries, close to us being Canada, they're actually taking this material and actually being able to go back with used material back in to create new wallboard and things like that. So our hope is to kind of help work on and develop some of those things. But initially, materials going into agriculture.
You did state that the paper product is recycled as well.
Yes, the paper part of that should be able to be recycled.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members? What is the total dollar amount of the project? Please remind me. So you're asking for $500,000.
The equipment investment was of allowable investment was right around just short of $2 million. 1.8. Yes. Overall project with buildings and all this money.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions from board members? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
Move support.
Mr. Guerin, is that a motion to approve for 500,000?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second by Mr. Gratz. Is any additional discussion required? Hearing none. I'm sorry, Ms. Hackman?
I understand the importance of this project and I applaud you for doing something different, you know, looking for something, a solution to keep things out of the landfill. Just want to, say that $500,000 is 25% of what we've got to give. So.
Comment noted. I understand it's a big ask and we've got a couple big asks.
Yeah.
But again, unfortunately, in this process, not everyone's gonna get a trophy. Any other comments? Hearing none, we can go forward with the roll call vote. And I will ask if Ms. Uyghur, if you're available, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Ms. Hackman,
No.
Mr. Gratz,
Yes.
Mr. Lutz,
I recuse myself.
thank you. Ms. Whitehead,
Yes.
I vote yes. I believe Ms. Henry is unavailable. With that, we have, or the motion carries with a vote of 5 yeses, 1 no, and 1 recusal. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time this morning. Good luck with your project.
Yes,
We expect great results.
yeah, we look forward to coming back and letting you know all about it.
Thank you.
Identify yourself, please. Joshua Campbell. I'm Tim Ragsdale. I'm the facility representative at CW Recycling. Thank you.
Moving on. And again, I remind board members, if you don't agree with going down the scoring list, please speak up. But the next highest scoring applicant was CT Polymers LLC with a score of 72. And they are requesting $500,000. Are there representatives from CT Polymers? If you would please identify yourself and give us a bit of a quick rundown.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I'm Reed Pittard representing CT Polymers. Yeah, this project is really it's an addition of our capacity, and then also it's largely 7 pieces of equipment. And what we'll be able to do with this equipment is separate out non-ferrous metals from plastics that are coming in, namely, if you've seen the large totes that Amazon uses in their distribution centers, we're able to pull out zippers and other pieces of metal that aren't able to be recycled, and then extract the plastic, move it onto another piece of our equipment, and get that plastic down to the little plastic pellets that we then sell back into the economy.
Good. Where do you see is that going to be like in-state vendors or buyers that you're going
Yeah,
to?
a lot of in-state. We've got Rare Pacific, R&R Technologies are 2 of our suppliers and buyers. I've got a list here. But Norton Packaging and Graham Packaging. A lot of the end users are using it for plastics that go into food packaging, into clothing, into electronics and toys as well.
And Rarick, is that the Rarick that makes the waste carts as well as the recycling bins?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Questions from board members?
The added full-time employees, you said was 10 to 12?
For this line of equipment, the entire project is up to 90 employees over the next 5 years. But yeah, for the scope of this project is 10 to 12.
Where are you based out of again?
Bourbon, Indiana.
Had to look that up on the map.
Yeah, that's. Get that, yeah.
Yeah, tell us where that is for those that.
Yeah, it's
don't
in
know
north,
the map.
it's in northern Indiana, about 30 miles south of Elkhart or so.
Any other questions? So what is the pleasure of the board? Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve $300,000.
Ms. Hackman makes a motion to approve $300,000 for CT Polymers LLC. Do I have a second?
Nice question.
Yes, Mr. Retz.
Do we know if they can do the project with a lesser amount?
That question was not asked.
Our bank is a great partner to us. Should be able to, they've been receptive and, but yeah, yes,
Will we get the same results?
yes.
That's always my fear when we ask people if they will take less money. And will that result in less of an outcome? You're telling me we'll be able to get the same results?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That satisfy your concern, Mr. Krebs?
Yes.
All right, so when we left off, we had a motion by Ms. Hackman. And did we have a second? Hearing none, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Whitehead. Any additional discussion required? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote on awarding CT Polymers LLC $300,000 for their application. Ms. Uyghur, are you available?
My answer is yes.
Thank you. Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Ms. Hackman,
Yes.
Mr. Gratz,
Yes.
Mr. Lutz.
Yes.
Ms. Whitehead,
Yes.
I vote yes, motion carries unanimously. Thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
How much money do we have left, Deanna?
$1,096,457.
Any pennies?
We're not doing pennies anymore.
Thank you.
Round up.
All right. Based on the scoring average, the next application that we will discuss is Warwick County Solid Waste and Recycling Center. At a score of 71, they're requesting $500,000.
Can we make sure, I know this one, we had a lot of recusals that we have.
Yeah, we better check that
members.
because
Yeah, we just. We have.
bear with us a moment, folks.
We have Bruce, Matt Gratz, Darren. Debbie, you're recusing yourself. Greg Letts, you're recusing yourself. Noonan is not present. We have Kelly. And Sandy, you will be able to vote. Okay, that's 5. So we have a quorum for this one.
All right,
Thank
gentlemen,
you.
proceed.
Good morning. My name is Freddie Rowland. I'm the superintendent for the Warwick County Solid Waste Management District and the Warwick County Recycling Program. What we are doing right now is we are taking curbside from Warwick County, and we have 5 sites that we bring materials in from. Our process right now is single stream. but it's all done by hand. Everything we do is by hand right now. We were doing well at the beginning. However, with COVID, everything happened. Right now, we're supposed to have 17 employees. We're averaging 8 a day. So our materials are not getting picked as much as they should. The board met, opted to go to ask for a bond to put in automation and mechanical equipment so that we can start doing what we're supposed to be doing. We have the bond approved, but some of the bond does not cover necessary extra equipment we will need to help support that equipment, such as a front end loader to feed the metering bins and things like that. So that is why we have put the grant in. Right now, a lot of the things, because of the labor shortage, is a lot of the materials get by us because we don't have time to go back to it a second, third, and fourth time to get the recyclables out. It is our intent that this will also increase our productivity by a minimum of 35% over the next 6 to 10 months. After that, we're looking at increasing it up to 50%. Well, our numbers were based on a 3 to 5 ton an hour metering machine. We have that set up for this new project. It is also set up that once we get on our feet and get running, and we know how to do things the right way, we can get up to 8 tons per hour. That will just increase the materials that will not be going to the landfill. So less contamination in that aspect, be more revenue coming back later on. And that is why we're asking.
Do you sort glass as well?
We used to, but we were not able to find a buyer to get it. So we have stopped that, unfortunately.
It's unfortunate because glass is, recycled as many times as possible.
Yes, sir.
And transportation is the toughest challenge.
Transportation is the toughest challenge, especially when you're offered what you're offered for the material. You have to provide the gaylords, you have to provide the pallets and everything and not get anything in return.
You may want to talk to Mr. Strategic and see if he can help you out. Thank you. Questions from board members?
Yes, are there any private hauler MRFs in your county?
No, sir, we're the only one.
You're the
Oh,
only,
well, now, when you say MRFs, what are you referring to?
a material recycling facility. Is there a recycling facility close to your county?
The only one is Tri-State Resources over in Evansville, and that's a private company.
And how far away is that?
20 miles, 25 miles.
Have you ever sent material to them?
To be processed? No, ma'am, we process it there on site. We bale it, we sell it on site. We don't send it to anybody else.
And so there are no, and just want to understand the whole picture. There are no private haulers that pick up recyclables in your county?
Yes,
There are.
Renewable Resources, which is a waste company. They pick up the curbside recyclables throughout Warwick County for the customers that they have. There is also some other facilities that bring, or other private companies that bring stuff. We have 62 businesses that we get recyclables from. We have 5 satellite sites where people from the community that does not use the waste haulers to pick up their recyclables can bring all their recyclables to. And we have roll-off trucks that go out to those sites, get those materials and bring them into us. And then it all goes through the process of being sorted. Once they're sorted, of course, and once we have enough material, we make our bales and stack them until we have enough to make a truck to sell.
So when that your downturn in employment happened, have you considered hauling material to an existing recycling facility instead of building your own and having your own sorting equipment? Have you looked at those costs, weighing those costs?
No.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
the other hauler take his material, do you know? Recyclables.
We're the only one in Warwick County, sir.
Does he bring?
He brings them to us.
He brings it to you.
Yes, sir.
How is the MRF funded?
It is funded through, property tax. And revenues, our own revenues.
Refresh my memory on your application. What type of equipment are you putting into the MRF as far as automation?
With the bond, we are putting in mechanical materials, which starts with the meter machine where we dump the recyclable materials into. It'll come out on belts and go down the line. It'll hit the cardboard sort OCC separators. It'll go through there, paper and everything smaller will drop down and continue on other belts, going up through to where it all gets situated into its own area. As it goes, trash and everything will fall to the bottom. That's where glass will go to also, unfortunately. As it goes on down the line, the plastics and the aluminum cans and scrap metal will continue on until they get to another end, to where robotics will start picking the plastics and use the aluminum cans.
So you have a cardboard screen, commercial cardboard screen.
Yes, sir.
You're going to have you're going to have any optical sorters for your plastics?
Yes,
And eddy current for your metals,
yes, sir.
and you're gonna run 8 tons an hour.
Hopefully, once we get everything going at the end.
I will tell you, sir. Personally, I have a history in the recycling industry. A lot of expense, and on a tons per hour cost basis, I can understand Ms. Whitehead's question, because the economics troubles me a bit, to be honest with you. The amount of money you're investing for 8 tons an hour is considerable. When third-party processing could be probably arranged for less than $50 a ton. And I wish you luck. I think it's admirable you're attempting to take on such a large project and be self-sustainable. But we do appreciate your commitment to recycling. Any other questions from board members?
I think in this particular case, I do need to ask you if you need that $500,000, because the primary problem we had at the beginning was labor.
Yes,
I mean, the facility was working, except you couldn't get the labor.
correct.
And it seems like a lot of money to replace just labor. I mean, I'm trying to find a way.
It's not just to replace labor, sir. It's also to increase our productivity. Because even if you have all the people that we're supposed to have, you're not gonna pick everything. You're not gonna have everybody show up every day. Whether the person that's actually there working, depending on the mood they're in, they may or may not pick what they should or what they can. It's one of those things where mechanics, it will be there each day. When you turn the machine on, they will be there ready to work.
And I think we all share in that labor challenge, and I sympathize with you on that. Because it is tough to get people and to ensure that they show up every day, and everyone who is familiar with the industry or in business in general today has problems with labor. So
So I think too, when you talked about productivity, you're also meaning, do you also expect, less contamination, less, like you'll be pulling more out, I assume, from each?
Yes, ma'am. The manufacturer or the contractor, he says that we should be 93% purity.
93%.
Yes.
Excellent. Any chance that you're going to increase your tons per hour?
What we're doing right now? Yes, sir.
From 8 tons to what?
Oh, no, sir. We're not doing 8 tons an hour right now.
Okay,
We're doing maybe a ton an hour
I see.
because it's by hand.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from board members? Hearing none. What's the pleasure of the board? Do I have a motion to approve Warwick County Solid Waste and Recycling Center?
I get it.
Mr. Guerin?
I was trying to find a way to support what you're trying to do, but the fact that that private hauler is there is a problem.
20 miles is pretty close.
Yeah. He's bringing the material to them.
But I thought there was another recycling facility in another county.
Tri-State Recycling is in Vanderburgh County,
Yeah,
And how far away is that?
25 miles.
20 miles.
That's the problem.
Yes.
They're not bringing their materials to us. They do have, but they also charge, is it $75 per ton? Reagan Opperman, Warwick County Solid Waste, I apologize. They charge, is it $75, $85 per ton, for the haulers to come to them. We will not be charging haulers to bring their materials to us. So it will be, and once we start bringing them in, right now, Renewable is not, we are not charging them to bring there, and then their contamination, we are able, that comes to our facility, we are able to take the contamination back to them at no charge to us. So there's a savings there to us as well, but we're not taking the facility that's in Evansville, they're not bringing anything to us.
Correct.
Yeah,
I
okay.
understand that. My point is, you know, I think it would be wise to look at kind of shifting what you're doing to a private entity that can maybe provide that service to you at a cheaper cost.
I think what Sandy's trying to say, we're obligated to award these dollars of our state's money in the best possible manner. So we have to evaluate. And with the knowledge that we carry, myself as a recycler, we have several people on the board that are in the industry and trying to stay, neutral on our considerations, but you're looking at dollars per ton. And I will tell you that the economics of your project and the sustainability of your project based on those economics is a concern of mine personally, and I believe of Ms. Whitehead's personally.
Yes.
And we actually, the company I'm employed by, we transport material over hundreds of miles to facilities. But these are $90–100 million facilities that process recyclables at a rate of 75 tons per hour. So it's apples and oranges compared to what you're trying to do. When we're spending, you're looking at matching the 500,000, you're spending $1 million, and you're going to recycle 8 tons per hour, I believe is what you said.
Yes, sir.
That's quite a hefty rate when compared to even 100 tons per hour at a third-party MRF. Those are our concerns. It's just how best to invest our money.
Yes, sir.
And I truly appreciate your desire to stay intact there in Warwick County. I admire your efforts to this point. So just wanted to make those comments.
Understood.
Thank you. So one more chance with the board. Do we have any motions from the board to proceed with this? Hearing none, folks, I would like to thank you very much for your application. You scored well. It's just that the economics is more than, I think, what we can accommodate.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we're going on to the next highest scoring candidate. And pardon me if I pronounce this wrong, but I believe it's Xeon Processors LLC.
Exion process.
Exion, there you go. I knew I was gonna mess it up. Please introduce yourself and give us a brief overview.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Spellman. I'm the president of Exion Processors. And this is Steve Wondergan. I was the grant writer for the project. Also works with us at Exion as well. So Exion, we are a non-ferrous metals recycler with a primary focus on processing insulated copper wire. So we have 2 machines at our facility that take insulated copper wire, granulate them, separate the metallics from the plastics, and then we supply copper back to the domestic copper brass mills, chemical companies that consume copper, and various copper consumers in the US and nationwide. Historically, we've had a problem. We've been in the business for almost 60 years now. We primarily source our wire from industrial wire and cable manufacturers, also buy some wire and cable from the public as well. In the industry, there's never been a group that's been able to recycle the plastic that comes off of the cable granulation process. Everyone's always gone after the copper, and the cable's always, the resultant insulation has always gone back into the landfill. Over the last 2 years, we've been working very diligently to try to figure out how we can refine our plastic in order to create a sellable product. Fortunately, we've been able to, through a lot of brain work, figure out a way to recycle the PVC, which is the primary plastic that's on the installations of all wire and cable. In addition, we've been able to figure this out because we're a large PVC recycler. At all wire and cable manufacturers, when they are extruding the plastic onto the copper wire, they generate a plastic waste, which we're a large purchaser of. We supply a little over 1 million pounds a month of plastic recycled PVC purgings to various customers, and we plan on supplying this granulated PVC product. So what we're going to be able to do, we're going to be purchasing a piece of machinery with this grant, hopefully, that we get awarded today. If not, I don't know if we'll be able to do it. That's able to separate plastic through an electrostatic process. We put mixed plastics. When you process cable, the insulations are mixed. You can't necessarily tell which cable is with which insulator. It'll electrostatically separate PVC from other plastics, and then we'll have a resultant dry granulated PVC product that we can then supply to the existing customers that we already supply PVC to. And those customers then remelt the PVC and extrude it into various products such as garden hoses, lawn edging, and various other PVC products. And that's what we're here to talk about today. And we anticipate that this will reduce, it's a direct landfill. Right now, we're landfilling all this material. So we'll be able to divert a little over 7 million pounds a year of this plastic that's currently being landfilled in Indiana, and turn it into recycled products.
Questions from the board members? When reviewing your application, I noticed, I had a question.
Yeah.
There's so many different insulating processes. When you get up to larger size cable, obviously, you have the plastic, and then you may have a synthetic, and then you may have a woven wire type of insulation prior to getting to the copper. Is your process going to be able to handle large cable like that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the unique characteristics of our business is we have a couple of suppliers who've been doing this forever, and we know their material very well. So part of the process is we're going to have to segregate material on the front end that we know is going to be perfect for the back end plastic separation. So there is material that's outside of the scope of this project that we will not be able to use. But the primary feedstock, which will be building wires, house wires, utility cable, those are gonna be the primary cables that we'll be able to recycle the plastic off of. And those are our primary cables that we process.
And those constructions are less complex. Typically, it's just PVC and nylon.
Yes.
So you don't get into all the different types of polymers like you were talking about, which does exist. But, you know, the majority of what we're gonna be doing are much simpler cables.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Okay, Mr. Garrett?
So your request is specifically for the piece of equipment?
Yes. And we'll be co-located at our facility, Exion processors, that where we're processing copper wire. We'll be able to, you know, we'll be able to use most of our staff and allocate additional costs of this project. We already have the accounting staff on site, health and safety on site, so it'll just be an extension of our existing process.
And you mentioned that, the amount requested, this equipment.
Yeah.
The amount requested of $288,000 and change.
Yeah.
It must be to get this equipment,
Correct.
and if we say you would accept a lesser amount, is the project dead?
It puts us in a really tough spot. I mean, no one is doing this right now. We've been kind of doing a garage science test with being able to separate the PVC, and we've successfully been able to demonstrate that we can get this recycled PVC product. On top of that, right now, the market for PVC is not as strong as we'd like it to be. So the pricing that we're gonna get for our sales are not as strong as we like to see. We expect them to go up, but just that's the economy right now. Prices are slumping for certain commodities, but we'll be in a really tough spot if we can't get this little grant.
And where does your in-feed come? Pretty the state of Indiana or all across the
in-feed?
The in-feed?
Yeah, we process it in Jonesboro, Indiana.
No, yeah,
Where's the
construction
visa?
sites. Are you going just state of Indiana?
Oh, who are suppliers of the
Yeah, this-
cable?
Correct.
Our biggest supplier is located in the state of Indiana, but we have other suppliers, all domestic.
That bring it to you.
Correct.
The piece of equipment, then
Yes.
you basically need, the total cost of the project is another $300,000 on top of the. What's that cover?
That covers the equipment. The equipment costs and installation, everything is around $600,000.
All right.
Any other questions? Pleasure of the board.
I move support for the amount requested.
Well, second.
I have a motion to approve Exion. Is that right?
Yeah.
Processors LLC. I'm sorry, my text here is very small. $288,343.
Thank you so much.
And I have a second by Mr. Lutz. Any additional discussion required? Roll call vote. Ms. Uyger, are you still there?
Yes.
Is that a vote of yes?
Correct.
Thank you. Mr. Garrett.
I think I want to
Ms. Hackman,
Yes.
Mr. Gratz,
Yes.
Mr. Lutz,
Yes.
Ms. Whitehead,
Yes.
Ms. Henry is absent, and I vote yes. Gentlemen, congratulations. You have unanimous affirmatives and the motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Come visit soon.
It would be very interesting to see. Where are we at now, Deanna?
We are at $808,114 left.
808,114. Thank you. The next on the scoring list is SER North America LLC. Again, please identify yourself and give us a brief overview.
Yeah, I'm Lorenzo Farrow. I'm the country manager for SCR North America.
I'm Gino Nobili. I'm the plant manager of SCR North America.
Thank you.
So just a brief overview of what we do. We are a plastic recycler. We're taking plastic, specifically polypropylene, for industrial scraps, and focusing on hard to recycle scraps. For example, flexible packaging, which is one of the kind of post-industrial scrap that is the hardest to recycle for many of the companies that are specialized in plastic recycling. What we're doing with this, just to give a brief overview of the process and make you understand what we were asking for. All the different scraps that we get, they go through, first they are cut in a guillotine to make it easier to process. The material is then shredded, is then stored, and then conveyed to an extruder where it's regranulated. The end product is clean granules that then are going to either to external customers that are making parts out of it. It can be outdoor furniture, paint buckets, etc., or they can use by our parent company, which is a compounder and is incorporating the recycled polypropylene that SCR is producing into more technical materials that then go into automotive, appliance, etc. What are we asking in our application? In this process, we have some bottlenecks. The first one is the cutting through the guillotine, and the other part is storing and then conveying all these flexible packaging. The main issue with this is that while commonly if you're taking polypropylene scraps, you have to regrind them. So if you're thinking about rigid packaging, that regrind is a very, it's been in the industry for a long time. People know how to handle it. It's moved in gaylords, stored in silo, and then conveyed very easily. From flexible packaging, when you shred it, you get like a fluff. So it's a very, very light material. A gaylord if you were to put it in a gaylord, it would weigh like 40 pounds. So it's once you have it, you cannot transfer it anywhere else. Either you process it right away, which is what we're doing, or there's not much use of it. The two main bottlenecks that we have is the cutting and the conveying system. So what we've been asking is to purchase a series of different equipment that is going to, let me say, debottleneck our process and reach our full capacity. That is the capacity that the shredding and the extruding system already have. So it's kind of a multi-step process. In this way, we would simply be doubling our cutting and conveying capacity. So it's a system that we already know that it works. And we would simply be kind of copy pasting and of course, using the improvements that the lesson learned over the years for these two steps. So buying an additional guillotine and then buying the box, the tent and the conveying system that will be needed to basically double our capacity to process these materials that otherwise most of our suppliers wouldn't know who to sell and they end up in landfills.
If you would please remind me, because believe it or not, I did read your application. I've read all the applications.
Yes.
I just don't have them in front of me right now. How many pounds are we going to keep in the plastic field? With $296,000.
So total would be an additional 13 to 14 million pounds in a year.
13 to 14
additional
million.
to what we're already doing today, which is the same amount, because this will be basically double our capacity to process these specific kinds of straps.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members?
Is there any doubt that you will be able to have that additional product come into you?
No, in reality, there could be some scarcity sometimes of the rigid packaging because that's in general, there is a lot of interest in incorporating recycled plastic into many different applications. So all the rigid one that is the most common could become more scarce in the future. On the other side, the flexible packaging, we get that offered constantly. Actually, he just received an email of someone trying to place it, and it's because that there's not many companies that are able to process the flexible packaging. Then I don't doubt that we can find 30 million more. I wouldn't doubt to find 50 million more today.
Any other questions from board members?
The only question I have is on, with all the equipment, the storage shelter.
Sure.
I'm okay with all the equipment. I'm just not sure the storage shelter thing, is that part that we can offer on a grant, Deanna and Carl, or is that something that
I can explain a little bit better, maybe.
Yeah, I know you can explain it. I'm just saying is the grant that itself, does it allow for the storage shelter be a property, land with that?
It's not a storage shelter. That's what I wanted to clarify.
Oh,
So
go ahead then.
basically, when the material is shredded, then it cannot go into a silo or it cannot go in boxes. But we have built this area, this box, but it's indoor. So it's within the plant. This is what is containing this mountain of fluff, basically. So
So it's more of a bunker, but,
Yeah, and
kind
those
of,
are,
yeah.
those are eligible. It's just property and land or that might have a deed or something like that connected to it.
Other questions? Did that answer your question, Craig?
They qualify the role. Deanna said yes. If Deanna says yes, I'll follow what Deanna says.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Building improvements and other things for buildings that help the process. are eligible.
Okay.
Hearing none. What is the pleasure of the board? Do I have any motions?
I'll make a motion to accept this.
Mr. Gratz, do you make a motion to award the entirety of, let's see, we're at $296,654?
Yes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second by Mr. Lutz. Any other discussion necessary? Hearing none, we'll go to a roll call vote. For the award of $296,000. Ms. Uyghur, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Goodman, is recused? Ms. Hackman, how do you vote?
yes.
Mr. Gratz,
Yes.
Mr. Lutz,
Yes.
Ms. Whitehead,
Yes.
Ms. Henry is absent. I vote yes. Gentlemen, congratulations on your application and your award. Wish you the best of luck and
Thank you.
keep acquiring that material.
Yes. Thank you. Also for us, we have open doors policy, so if you guys want to come and visit anytime, we're happy in Anderson.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We might take you up on that. Debbie, I'm going to have to pass over the reins to you on the next one. Is that, okay? I'm sorry. Yes. You can't do that? Matt, are you able to,
Yeah,
if you would, please?
this is Floyd County. Is that? Yes. So we have Floyd County's project for a total project cost of $104,510. The amount requested $52,255.
Gentlemen,
Use the term loosely. I'm Scott Stewart, Director. I'd like to recognize John Schellenberger, Floyd County Commissioner and Vice President of the Floyd County Solid Waste Management District. Shortly after I took my position in February of 2022, the board really did two things. One was to approve the rebranding of the Solid Waste District from just solid waste to Recycle Floyd County. And as a result of that, that has been a powerful tool for us to communicate to our consumers exactly what we're up to. Second thing, and I think boldly the board of directors did, was to set a goal by 2030 in Floyd County becoming the first county in the state to achieve a 50% recycling rate for household wastes. No, Tom Lees loves visions like that, and it is bold. But we believe it's achievable. And there are three building blocks to how do you get from where we are today to there. It's access, it's education, and it's partnerships. Today, the current state is that we operate two drop-off centers, one in New Albany, one in Galena. New Albany operates 5 days a week. And we get a variety of our residents from throughout the county who visit that site. And in Galena, you'll pass through Galena on State Road 150 if you're heading from Louisville to French Lick, as an example. We truly believe that access is critical to meeting our long-term goal. Second, education. People just don't, as probably everybody in this room understands, there's great passion for those citizens who today recycle. It's not easy, go out of your way to do it in most places around Indiana. In Floyd County, city of New Albany does have curbside recycling. That's 36,000 of the 80,000 folks in the county. So we're really seeking to serve, the other 44,000 folks who live outside the New Albany city limits. Being able to connect with them when they're most receptive to the message is vitally important. And so as a result of that, we plan on a broad communications program. And our request includes $41,500 for that effort. We've partnered with a major communications firm in the county. I'm a retired Procter & Gamble communications executive, so I know good communicators when I see them. So we're happy to have Ideology as one of our partners. And then last of all, in doubling down on partnerships, IU Southeast, one of the major IU regional campuses, has established a sustainability program. They would like very much to be a part of this effort. And our operation will be happy to cover the stipends for IUS sustainability students to join Ideology and our team in really designing excellence and execution of the communications program. The 62,000 and change are to help us increase the access. So when you think about New Albany, Floyd County, it's basically Northwest Louisville. New Albany as a city is now growing. Actually, it may be the same population as it was in the 2010 census. But if you look at Floyd County, there's been a significant migration of people from Kentucky, Louisville in particular. So we have a unique opportunity to really increase participation in recycling by increasing access. So with John's assistance in hooking up us with the county planning department, we've identified the top 10 newest, biggest neighborhoods in the county. And the equipment that we're asking for, a Pro-Tel trailer, a separate trailer with a roll-off open top, and then just an a la carte roll-off bin will help us take the mountain to Mohammed. We want to go into the neighborhoods. We want to connect with every citizen, and those great households that generate 757 pounds of solid waste a year. We want to go to where they are, certainly make recycling more convenient. And at the end of the day, we believe that the combination of the partnerships, the communications, not only on social media, been in all media throughout the county, but particularly in these 10 model neighborhoods will help us step change where we are today. I would quickly add that as we've evolved our thinking since June 21st, when we first submitted the application, we believe more and more in the need for advanced separation. So we are identifying with this project, a test market, if you will, with one or two of these neighborhoods of 200 homes each. A system where we would advance separation, which would allow the separation of plastic and white paper in particular from the single stream that we currently collect today. Any questions?
So go ahead, Terry.
Just a clarification. What you're trying to do is admirable. But is this application, should this have gone to the other grant programs?
It meets our qualifications as well as the other grant programs.
So we qualify.
So, you want to take these roll-off trailers to a neighborhood. So you've identified 10 neighborhoods, and then you just said you have 2 that you want to do a pilot study.
Right, so we'll have a subset of that, Sandy, where we'll continue to have our drop-off sites as we have today, but we'll go into these neighborhoods that represent 2,229 households. And we will identify a specific time that will be present in those neighborhoods. And we'll go door to door to ensure that we go as far as we can to get at least a 50% participation rate.
So you're going to go to the neighborhood and sit with the trailer?
Absolutely.
And allow residents to come to you?
That's correct. That's correct. Matter of fact, this idea first came up a year ago when we had applied unsuccessfully in 2022, but a Cobbler's Crossing Homeowners Association president came to us and said, why don't you do this? And then we did some checking around these other neighborhoods, and yes, people just are very busy, and many times that they just can't make it to the drop-off centers. So we believe that not only the value of the collection of going into the neighborhoods, but we think the buzz that will be generated by step changing the awareness of Recycle Floyd County will go far to help us meet our long-term goals.
So the containers that you're asking for, you've looked at the volume of what could possibly be generated in these neighborhoods, and these containers you feel and the type of schedule that you'll have to have set up to be able to pick all this material up that would cover that.
Absolutely. And the thing about it, I'll add, because every organization, IDEM included, is only as good as its employees. And we're a small organization. Most we have 3 full-time employees. All the rest are almost volunteers. They make $15 an hour to work the line. So we man our drop-off centers now. They do it not for the money, but they do it because they're passionate about recycling, and they are excited to be a part of a project that would be in the state spotlight. Because successful or less than successful, we will work closely with IDEM, with Deanna and her organization, to make sure people learn what we learn from a positive experience, or if we learn things the hard way, we'll certainly share that for the greater good.
Do you anticipate these roll-offs to go into neighborhoods on like a vent weekends or permanent?
Not permanent. They have to be mobile, so we'll be identifying
Like
days,
how long would you anticipate at a neighborhood?
couple hours.
Just a couple hours and then move on?
Exactly.
And that would be a consultation with the HOA and and them as well, yeah.
Like the HOA would say is, okay, the recycle trailer's coming between these hours. Please bring your material to that at this designated time.
That's right.
But we would just blindly just drop them off. They could be made aware of this, and pick the best time that would be available for the transaction.
And that material you take back to your facility?
That's, well, currently what we do, we have in our relationship, our partner will pick up the single stream and take it to American Louisville. And we in turn, especially our metals, our aluminum and our corrugated, our people will transfer our trailers to site in Louisville.
So you are doing some sorting then?
No,
You're not doing any sorting?
no.
Any more questions? Do we have a motion to fund this project?
Paul, I move to support it.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote. Terry?
Yes.
Oh, you're recused. I vote yes. Mr. Lutz?
Yes.
Ms. Bland?
Yes. Kelly.
Kelly?
This is Kelly. My vote's yes.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you next year at this time, if not before.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Matt, great thanks to you for, without notice, taking over.
First time. That was my first time.
You owe me one. With that said, what monies do we have available? Deanna?
We have 459,205.
459.
On the screen.
This is like my wife's going shopping, only with bigger numbers. And the next candidate we have on the scoring list is Indiana Shingle Recycling LLC. With a score of 64, they're requesting $445,000. Is there anyone present to represent Indiana Shingle LLC? Good morning, welcome. Please introduce yourself and give us a brief overview, and we'll throw some really tough questions at you.
Sounds good.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. I've got it here and I could be wrong. I've got two that are at an even number right here. We're at this level. I know it says the overall ranking, but looking at the overall average, I just want to clarify that it looks like we've got two that are tied right now.
You are correct. We have
So
the next one that is, it's the same scoring level, which is CDC Incorporated. And all I would ask is you consider that in your motions
okay, I see.
and
Okay,
whatnot.
got it. Okay, I'm okay. Sorry. Go ahead. Christine.
Apologize.
Okay, no worries, yeah. I'm Liesl Ray and I'm the owner of Indiana Shingle Recycling. Just to give a kind of brief overview of what we do and where we've been over the last 10 years. We've been in business here in central Indiana for 10 years. We recycle asphalt shingles. Got in business primarily only to recycle for the paving industry. shingles go 100% back into HMA, hot mix asphalt. In 2016, NDOT changed their specs from 5% recycled content down to 3%. And that pretty much cut us off at the knees, as far as, doing as much business as we were. We were recycling, over 50,000 tons a year, as a seasonal business, not really operating at all during the winter. So since then, we've been doing R&D. We partnered with, a few different companies, and 5 years into the kind of current environment, we've partnered with Owens Corning, and we are currently in a pilot with them that we started in December of 22. And so we've gone through benchtop test and now through the pilot, and we're ready to add on to our processing. And that's what we're asking for, is funding for equipment to basically scale up to a commercial facility to do recycling to go back into shingles. So they'd be full circular economy. So, and we're looking at 75,000 tons a year, so it's 150 million pounds. It's a huge opportunity.
Why did they reduce the allowable content from 5% to 3%?
I don't know, like, exactly why they went from 5 to 3. I will say that there was some premature cracking that was being found in, and rather than, go through the process of trying to find like a better solution or a better mix design, it was, I don't know the specifics of that, but it was just pretty much changed right away. And that 3% content is mostly made up out of recycled asphalt pavement, so RAP. And that kind of extra 2% was coming from shingles. So RAP is still going, at a pretty good rate into the road. It's just the shingles that have gotten significantly reduced. We're only doing a couple thousand tons a year right now, for specific mix designs for pavement.
Thank you.
Will you be able to accept less and still complete your project?
Yes. Yes, we'll be able to fund it.
If I may expand upon that. With Craig's comment, we'll need a overview from the next equally scoring candidate.
Sure.
Prior to any motions being made.
Okay.
Just so you understand. So.
This equipment, others doing it, other people like you in the shingle recycling, with this equipment, is it known? Is it, I guess, known with it?
Understand where you're going. We do have other competitors, not within the Indiana space currently.
Sure.
There are a couple of other companies that are working with other shingle manufacturers to come up with a solution. We've already proven it out of pilot, phase, and we're ready to move to a commercial facility. So that's where we're at with asking for the funding.
I'm surprised they actually have the approval from IDEM or from the state, because Kentucky is struggling with that. And they don't allow any shingle mix
In
the hot mix,
Yeah.
and they need to.
There has been, there have been some improvements in the asphalt, realm. There's balanced mix design that's coming out that, but that's gonna take a lot of education and a lot of persuading based on where the industry has been to get back to that. This actually allows us to go to an annual production instead of just being seasonal, and increase our employee count again. At one point we had over 40 employees. I currently have 1. So to get back to major amount of recycling.
Good. Any other questions from board members?
Dan, I guess, did you put this on our notes that says this project may be a good fit for CIWGP?
That would be Tom that made that comment from our item staff.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
And yeah, and I think that's just like, you know, because we can't award them all, that, this is central Indiana, and, if they don't receive funding for this, there is the option of the next round of the central Indiana waste diversion projects. For them, they would be eligible.
Thank you.
Is there a compliance issue with this?
Well, that's what I was going to do next, is ask the tough question. Obviously, there is a history of non-compliance, and, there was some agreed upon order, I believe. How do we stand with that at this point?
We've done everything that item was asked us to. Realistically, when your revenue drastically reduces, we've been operating on a shoestring budget for some number of years. So it's hard to, manage the amount of material that we were, bringing in, when all of a sudden we didn't have the stream for it to go out. We haven't brought material in several years. And, even though we technically right now are permitted to do so, we've agreed that we don't want to bring any more in until we have this fully, up and running. That way we know that, it's going out faster than it's coming in.
I appreciate that, but please understand, take no offense, I'm obligated to check with Mr. Lees. And
Completely understand.
And so I turn to Mr. Lees and I say, are they currently in compliance?
Yeah, there's with our compliance systems program, reports that have agreed orders and they're and good standing in that regard. So it has been an issue in the past, but I think they're on the right path going forward. The timing of the project is important, and if they could fit under the Central Indiana Waste Diversion Pilot Project, they have more money available to them to fund the full request. It depends if that timeline would be okay, because that's a year away. And whether or not, the timing may be of essence with their markets and getting material processed. It's, raising funding, it is always an effort.
Thank you, Mr. Lees, and obviously I want to do that for the record. I know it wouldn't have been on the list if they were not in compliance, so I appreciate that.
Bruce, I want to make a quick update. I think that some of my spreadsheets that I provided the board are slightly off. They are asking for 495,000. Total project cost of 990,000. Some of the spreadsheets have 445, and I apologize for that.
I had 445, you said it's 495?
Yeah.
Sorry, we're out of money, we don't have 495.
I know.
So the big question is, should the board consider funding you, would you be able to accept 459 or less?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Anything else that you would like to offer to the board for consideration?
I guess also want to say we've spent a lot of money, even just the last year, to get this pilot with Owens Corning, and to do everything that we can to remove the material and put a circular economy solution into place. We've come full circle from where we were. So
Well, I commend you, and I understand personally the struggles, because in another state, I'm working with a group that are trying to get somebody to do what you're doing. And to get the state to accept it in their mix. So, keep up the good work. We do have to hear from the next applicant, but keep your fingers crossed.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next applicant that we have with the similar score as Indiana Shingle Recycling LLC is GDC Incorporated with a score of 64. And I believe they're asking for 132,000. Is that correct, Deanna?
And yeah, I just want to make note that the original request was much higher, but based on the equipment quotes that were provided to me and the budget table that they provided, I had to break that down a little bit more. And so the eligible costs based on the materials and stuff provided to me is that 132. Yeah, 132.
Do I have a representative from GDC in attendance?
Yes, I'm here. My name is Tim Extroff. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for GDC. And
Welcome.
thank you for
Right, I'm
having.
looking at my notes more clearly.
Okay,
Let
anyway,
me,
so
I
the
apologize,
project,
let me just speak real quick. It's $98,992 that are eligible.
okay,
I did.
excellent. So the project that we're interested in kicking off is one of our major products that we manufacture is polypropylene sound insulation die cut materials for the automotive industry. And the way we produce that product is at a plant in Elkhart, Indiana. We buy raw polypropylene pellets and make it into continuous 5 and 6 foot wide quilts. Those quilts are then transported to our plant in Goshen, Indiana, where we're asking for the capital for a project where they are die cut on machines, with the scrap rate being about 50%. So we produce about 200,000 pounds of these blankets a week, and we produce about 100,000 pounds of this scrap a week, which accumulates in cardboard boxes. And as best we can right now, we send some of it back up to our plant Elkhart to recycle. And because of the way it's scrapped and it's kind of pillowy, you can only get about 4,000 pounds, 3,000 to 4,000 pounds on a semi trailer. So we're sending multiple trailers, 4 or 5 trailers a day back there. If they can handle it, they're recycling some of that. Other of that we can't handle because of that just goes off to be baled and put in a landfill, et cetera. And it's done in cardboard boxes, and we consume a vast amount of cardboard boxes. What we want to do then is simply bale this into 4 to 5, 600 pound bales of this polypropylene scrap, which then could be taken in semis at about 40,000 pounds a load, or instead of 5 truckloads a day, 2.5 truckloads a week, up back to our Elkhart plant, where in that form we could recycle all of it, eliminate the cardboard, bring the blankets that we produce back on skids in kind of a continual recycling process, eliminating both any polypropylene scrap or the majority of the cardboard from getting into landfills. So the ask is for funding for simply a baling kind of compressor baling equipment in order to make that recycling process complete.
Questions from the board?
Deanna, what was the eligible amount, did you say?
The eligible amount, $98,992. That goes towards the baler, the steel dump style scrap containers, and then some towards electrical and delivery.
So this is just an internal improvement, correct?
Yeah, it is, and it's eliminating waste going into landfills, but essentially it is an internal improvement. So we'll end up using 100% of our scrap, eliminating roughly, we hope, 90% of our cardboard, and eliminating more than 25 mile an hour, 25 mile trips a week from our Goshen plant to our Elkhart plant, hauling the scrap up there, and what scrap we can't recycle because of the process at this point, sending it off to one of the local either people to recycle it, to send it to landfills, et cetera. So there'll be some savings due to waste due to excessive trucking, but essentially the save is eliminating all polypropylene and the majority of cardboard scrap not being recycled.
Any other questions? Again, it's expensive to haul feathers. How many tons a day are we speaking of?
Well, the way that this material scrap is produced is pretty pillowy, like you said, feather. So there's probably, and I actually wrote some notes down ahead of time. Right now, there's probably, without baling it, there's 4 to 5 truckloads a day. Because you can only get 3 to 4, maybe 5,000 pounds of this pillowy stuff on a trailer. It just fills up with volume. And with the bales, the way we plan to do it and compress it, we would do 2.5 truckloads a week back to Elkhart, and it's pretty easy to handle at that point. The bales can stack up, and quite honestly, they can just run almost continuously, and we can recycle this stuff and put it right back into our sound insulation material that goes into automobiles and light trucks and stuff like that, assuming they go back into production soon in the automotive industry.
Any questions?
It is not a very fancy project. I apologize, it's pretty simple.
We like simple. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Any other comments from the board?
Is this, is the grant money, is this program predicated strictly on the grant money? Or is there enough economic improvement internally that it looks like an improvement of transportation, efficiencies, things like that, that you would self fund it anyways?
To be honest, we would very likely do this project regardless of it. If we didn't get the full amount, we would very likely do the project.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board members? All right, hearing none, what's the pleasure of the board? We want to look at the next applicant before we start shelling out the rest of our available funds.
You mean go down to 3 or just leave?
Well, we've got one at a score of 62. Oh, actually, I have 2 at 62.
Right.
I'd like to make a motion to award to the asphalt shingling company.
And the amount of how much, Mr. Retz?
It would be what the remaining amount we have.
$459,000. Is that correct, Deanna?
$459,205.
And they were asking for how much?
$495.
So we have a motion by Mr. Gratz to award the remaining balance of funds we have available to Indiana Shingle Recycling LLC in the amount of $459,000 plus a few pennies.
205.
205. Thank you, Deanna. Do I have a second?
Quite a little comment.
Certainly.
Okay, well, I just look at this, it's a asphalt shingles, there's really no market out there for them right now, am I correct? And if we can find a way to recycle asphalt shingles, that'd be huge. To keep that out of landfill. And I guess what I feel this board is to do is provide money and grant funding to find new markets for materials that currently have no market. So I don't know. I just think this is a project that it might be worth giving it a go and making it.
Thank you for that comment.
I don't disagree, Matt, with the comments that you said. I'm just saying that at $460,000 roughly rounded, right? It would be the second highest grant monies that we gave today. And I'm just saying, I'm thinking that 460 might be a big steep compared to how the scoring and how the other funds have came through.
And it could be a lot of tons kept up compared to some.
Thank
This
you.
is Kelly. Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
I'm just wondering if this applicant would be able to speak to whether they would be able to move forward with the project if the grant amount was $350,000.
The applicant would be able to move forward with the project if the grant amount was less than requested. I believe you said the amount of 300,000 or 350.
350 was what I asked, although it would probably be beneficial for the board to hear the response to those numbers.
Sure.
We'll find this, yeah, I mean, we'll fund the rest of it if 350,000, we can come up with the difference.
The answer is affirmative, yes. They can move forward with the amount of 350,000, Kelly. Any other questions?
So just looking at the numbers, if Indiana Shingle Recycling did $360,213, we could also fund GEC for the full $98,992.
All right. So what is the pleasure of the board?
So do we have to do something with Matt's?
We have to either, he has to amend his motion, withdraw his motion,
You die for.
or it dies.
You want to die or just amend it to what you just said, Sandy?
Why don't you just let it, we'll make a new.
Okay, we'll let it die.
Now, can I ask? for a
I will
motion?
I will make a motion to award $350,000.
Have a motion by Ms. Uyghur for $350,000 for Indiana Shingle Recycling LLC. Do I have a second?
It really needs to be 360, 205. Right? Am I right?
360,213.
Or it needs to be more than that, right? Dan,
No.
I'm trying to do that.
we want 98,092, right?
Oh, I gotcha. I'm sorry.
We want to have the $200 to get this somebody.
Yeah.
360,213. If you were to award the 98,992.
360,213.
That's not right, because that
No.
allows 134, then we have $134,787 left, I think.
Wait, we got this.
We have 459,205.
It's no, for which one are you? No.
Please allow us to
Fund
get our.
this.
Fund it to the math.
Yeah.
Well, I think we did. So we did, this is this much. Yeah. Right? You're trying to, so I'm just playing ball. If you're saying we wanna, for giggles, we have $459,000 left. If we wanted to fund GDC Inc., the total amount of 9892, right? If we would have left in the kitty $60,213.
So that is.
So that would be the amount that we, if we're just saying is we want to do the full amount, and these are the two projects we're gonna do, then Indiana Shingles would accept $360,213, and GDC would accept the full amount of $98,992, if we wanted to fund GDC as well. Those would be the two numbers. But the motion is that we have 350, so we'd actually have $10,000 left to give in the kitty for other, we can go to the next applicant. There'd be $10,000 left.
Kelly, do you prefer to withdraw your motion and make a new motion or amend your motion?
Yes, I would like to amend my motion to fund, that amount that you said, 360, whatever.
360.
So your motion is to fund Indiana Shingle Recycling $360,013.
Yes.
Thank you. We have a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lutz. Any additional discussion needed? We do a roll call vote. Ms. Wigger?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Guerin?
Accused.
Thank you. Ms. Hackman?
Yes.
Mr. Gratz?
Yeah.
Mr. Lutz?
Yes.
Ms. Whitehead?
Yes.
And I do vote yes as well. So with one recusal, your motion carries unanimously.
Thank you so much. Very,
Thank
very
you.
appreciate.
I need your information before you leave, so that I can pass it along to some other individuals who are struggling with exactly what you're doing.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you. So that leaves us with a hopefully 98,000.
992.
919,
$98,992.
992. Okay. That brings up our next discussion on GDC Incorporated. What's the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion to fund GDC Incorporated for $98,992.
We have a motion by Ms. Whitehead. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Guerin. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. Do a roll call vote. Ms. Uyger,
Yes.
Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Ms. Hackman,
Yes.
Mr. Kratz,
Yes.
Mr. Lutz,
No.
Ms. Whitehead.
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion carries, 6 votes and 1 no. 6 yeses, 1 no. With that, we've expended all the monies we have available for award today. I do sincerely want to thank all of the applicants. You make our job challenging with 19 to 20 applications, but I can't tell you how much we appreciate that. Because it shows innovation, it shows the desire, and it justifies the need. And the expenditure the state's making. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I apologize that we couldn't take care of everyone. But we look forward to seeing your applications in the future. For those who were awarded, congratulations, and we look forward to successful programs.
Thank you.
Do we have any other issues we need to discuss, Deanna?
I do have one item.
Ms. Aaron?
Sorry to prolong the meeting, but yesterday I was talking with Jason Donati from the Muncie Sanitary District, and he told me that vape cartridge disposal is getting to be a really big problem because of the lithium batteries. And that they're sometimes causing fires in trucks. And I wondered, are you all seeing the same thing?
Yes, it is
Yes.
a tremendous problem.
Lithium batteries are very explosive. You step on them, you roll something over. Unfortunately, thank goodness, it was about 2 or 3 months ago. We actually had a fire at our recycling center, and it was because the front end loader rolled over a lithium battery. Thank goodness our fire system was able to extinguish the fire and get it under control and out actually even before the fire department was on site, which they were on site within, 3 minutes. But lithium batteries are horrid. I mean, you saw the kids that run in those lithium things, and then they're in actually a friend of mine had one of those little trike things, kids things that was in his garage, and it just, lithium batteries.
Yeah, we've got a task force in Fort Wayne. My department, solid waste department, the county solid waste department, and our fire department is working on SOPs on how to handle, like the fire department sees them in a fire. Basically how we're gonna transport it, how we're gonna get it to the county for their household hazardous waste site. And then we're also putting funding towards basically public awareness, trying to get the message out that, when your batteries start becoming compromised, be sure that you call someone, dispose of it properly. And so that's kind of what we're doing in Fort Wayne.
The National Waste Recycling Association is working with battery manufacturers to try to address this issue. I think that's one of the side problems here is not just the safety issue because of the batteries, but the insurance cost to the industry. Unbelievable. I mean, you're getting to the point where I don't care how big your company is, you can't afford it. You can't afford the insurance. So it's a major problem. And I just happened to see the other night, I forget what the name of the show is, Mayday. It has to do with airline crashes. And that issue had to do with a large jumbo jet, same size as the presidential jet. I think it was a FedEx jet that was brought down by lithium batteries in a storage unit. Unbelievable. So it's a major issue, and the association industry realizes it and is trying to do something about it.
Jason told me that they have a grant that they can dispose of the East Central Indiana recycling of household. But the commercial, the vape shops and places that you buy it, he'd like to put some bins there, but there's no money to pay for. The trouble with bins for the public is sometimes they're not prepared correctly to be disposed of, and when you put two of them together and they hit their contact points, that's when the fire starts. So it's another problem. I mean, it's good, it's good to get out there and talk about it and let the public know that they're dangerous, but we have to be really careful how we collect them. I have a fireproof explosion-proof container that I carry in my vehicle. So does, if I pick some up that aren't prepared correctly, that I carry them in theirs, because I don't want to burn anything.
We did fund the ERI project last round for collection of batteries. And they have a safe collection, including lithium batteries.
Yeah, part of what we funded there was like a barrel that, has the fireproof type of padding in it for safer collection of those.
Representative Barrington, last evening I was at another solid waste management district board meeting. And their concern was there are certain batteries now that they've actually modified where they're safe and allowable for disposal. And the cost of actually recycling those batteries has risen excessively. They wanted to remove those batteries from their promotion of recycling. And the discussion ended with, why confuse our consumers, our residents, as to our intentions? It's better to pay for the continued disposal of batteries for recycling at the high cost versus, struggling with confusing the residents. Recycling the batteries is the only way to deal with it, because lithium ion batteries are a huge problem throughout our industry. I think every company in the business has ran into a problem with lithium ion battery.
Wasn't the same batteries that we hold up to our face all the time.
It's amazing. It just doesn't take much to make a fire.
I hope a solution can be found soon.
Well, and let's think, what are we going to do with our EV batteries, our electric vehicle batteries? Who has the process to recycle those batteries?
Windmills.
We have a comment from Pat Daniel.
Yes, Ms. Daniels.
Right before you adjourn, I would just like to ask you, Anna, to let the board members know that at the end of this year, everyone's terms will be ending or coming to an end possibly not, but Deanna can just give you a heads up on that.
Yeah, I had been communicating with you guys and I'll send further information, but everybody got appointed at the exact same time on the board currently, minus of course our legislative members. So everybody's term is, the 4-year term is up at the end of this year. So I will be, confirming with each and every one of you if you still want to continue and serve on the board another term. And then the process is really goes to the legislator's office, to the governor's office. They are the ones that I'll provide the names to, and the information and additional recommendations for anybody new, and they determine who will continue and how the board will look for the next year. They do sometimes take a while to get those new appointments in place, and you guys are on the board until we have new appointees in place too. So if there's a overlap in that first January meeting, and we don't have information from the governor's office, I plan on hopefully seeing you all back here at that time. And I did have one more update that was reminded of me. I just wanted to say that we do have now the EPA Swiffer dollars, solid waste infrastructure for recycling dollars to do the state solid waste plan. So we're developing the RFP, a request for proposals for a contractor to create that plan. Hopefully the RFP will be out at the beginning of the year. And so we're started on work on that project. We do hopefully anticipate a lot of stakeholder involvement on creating that plan and looking to, everybody in this room and those who applied even to be those stakeholders that can provide us input as we move forward on a statewide materials management plan. I'm not sure what I called it the first time. It's been a long morning.
Thank you, Deanna. The only other item I need to touch on, I believe most have left, but I do invite any comments from our guests. Any public comments at this time with anything that has to do with the matters discussed today? Yes, sir.
Can you run through the rest of the scoring for the ones that were not funded today?
Can you identify yourself, please?
Bryce Black with the city of Rensselaer.
The city of
Rensselaer.
Bruce, I can just go ahead and share the rankings on the screen.
Certainly, that's fine. It's the same text I had. There you go. Appears that you are number 13. And if I look at the scoring sheet,
We did 9.
you were at 58.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Our next meeting. It will be January 25th, 2024. Hopefully, we're all still employed on the board. Yeah. With that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you to you, Kelly. Yeah. Representative Barrington, Senator Niemeyer, thank you.